Honk.
And as always, the honk will lead them. What's going on, everyone? Welcome, Argonauts. Welcome, everybody, to a Thursday stream. And Happy New Year. Welcome to the first stream for us of 2025. It is January 2nd, 2025. We are midway through the 2020s, in case you want to feel yourself crumble into dust. And it is good to see everybody here for a very special stream. We have got day 3 of Beyond Shadowgate, but we also have something, or I should say someone else. And I will talk about that in just a minute. But before I get there, just a couple of reminders about ways to support us on the channel. If you have not done so already, please follow us here on the channel. Please check out our YouTube with !ArvTube. That is always appreciated. And if you're watching me over on YouTube, welcome, and please spread the word. Any new subscriptions there are going to be new records because we are sitting at a new record level of subscriptions there. So please do subscribe. It's free for you to do that over there, and you can get more content from us that way, and also can support us by boosting the algorithm a bit over with them. So please do that if you can. ArvCord is the Discord channel, !ArvCord, where you can hang out with the Argonauts in between streams. Alleluia, a miracle has happened upon Earth, and it is that the Discord bot is once again working. So we have a notification bot again. It went live. I was very excited. And so that's really awesome. Hopefully I can expand my use of it a little bit over the next couple of months or so. Right now, I'm glad just to have an announcement that I don't have to make somewhere. That's really nice. May it always be so. So, but definitely watch us or follow us over on Discord. You can join us in the Discord server, which is always hopping over there, so please do that. Twitter is !ArvTweets for the social networks. Blue Sky, and in particular, I want to move people in that direction, is !ArvSky. Please follow me there, !ArvTweets, which I'm leaving soon, and Blue Sky, !ArvSky, which I'm not leaving, and which I'm sort of making the main focus of the social networking stuff. Please do follow me over there and spread the word about that. I just hit 700 followers over there, so thank you, and let's keep that up on the Blue Sky. TikTok, !ArvTalk. Website for this, arvanelaron.com, and please keep a lookout for the limited run Hearthglow podcast. More information about the finale of that coming soon. We're doing another long one in January, another long one in February recording, and then we should be having our finale, we think possibly in March, but stay tuned for that. And of course, Gen GMs, the show that I do with Zach Clay. I've already recorded a new long show with Zach, and we will have that getting posted here within the next few days as well, so definitely check that out too. And welcome. Thank you, Paul. I'm excited for tonight as well. Let's see. That was the, what was that? The Twitter. Why is my floor suddenly shaking? Hey, kittens. I'm trying to introduce something here. All right, Sherbert, you take it easy. So on the financial front, !ArvTrayon is my Patreon. That's really the financial backbone of the channel. So any support you can give to that would be great. You get cool stuff for yourself and move us forward in the channel. !ArvShop is the merchandise area where you can get various things related to the stream, various aspects of things relating to our various campaigns. So please do that. That would be lovely. And then we have, of course, subbing to the channel, where you can get those custom sub badges and emotes to use here, there, and everywhere across Twitch. That is always appreciated as well. And you can get inspirations to help our tabletop players. Those inspirations have been reset, I should say, for the month. But you can get in and be part of those new inspirations as time goes on. So you can do that as well. So please, if you haven't already done so, please consider supporting us with a Patreon or subbing to the channel. On the writing front, !Icarus, my graphic novel from Athos Arts. !Library is my Tales and Tomes, The Forbidden Library. That's my 5e adventure and sourcebook from Alligator Alley Entertainment. And !Greyshade, that is my Greyshade TTRPG. Well, first of all, it's my Greyshade IP. Greyshade, Renegade, and Heretic, my Grey Assassin trilogy. You can get those at that link right now. You can also get the audiobook of Greyshade from our very own Trent Sparks. And you can also pre-order the tabletop role-playing game of Greyshade, which is coming out later this year. That is from our good friend Brandon O'Brien and from the amazing Alligator Alley Entertainment. So you can pre-order that right now. And last but certainly not least, !BLM, Black Lives Matter, important to affirm and assert the significance and importance of Black lives. !Help Now, the World Health Organization page on suicide prevention. Important to reach out to others when you need help and reach out to others when they need help as well. And Ukraine, Ukraine, to help the people of Ukraine as they fight back against an illegal and illegitimate war with bravery and courage, and send the message we will do so for others in this situation in the future. And with that, I'm going to transition to this and say hello to everybody. It's good to see you all. I hope everyone is doing well, and I am very excited for this evening. because we have a special guest, folks. We have a special guest who I am very happy to be able to speak about. Now, I will mention first, I'm going to unmute him so he knows that we're ready to go, unmute myself, and then unmute him. Just before I bring him on, I will mention that I want to thank my friend Eugene Myers, because it was thanks to Eugene that I actually got connected with this person that I'm about to introduce. And I'm very excited about it because there's no better way, I think, to lead off 2025, which may be a little bit of a difficult year for the world, but there's no better way for us to be able to do this than to bring in a designer and a writer and a producer and a gamer and a person who you've already met if you've been sitting in this channel but have not seen in person. So thank you to Eugene for introducing me to the person I'm going to introduce you to now, and that is, who I've just put up on the stream, Christian Moseley. Christian, thank you so much. Designer, developer, writer, producer of Zojoy's Beyond Shadowgate. Thank you, Christian, for being with us. I appreciate it. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. I'm glad to be here. This has been a lot of fun. Been looking forward to it since we started chatting.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited. Oh, we have someone who just came in called the other Rick Fox, who just gave us a ooh Christian. So I see the other Rick Fox. All right, that's good. Former Celtic.
Nice.
So thank you so much for doing this. So I guess I should lead off with, and Chad, in case you're curious, the way this is going to work is I'm going to ask a few questions. Christian and I are going to chat a bit. I will play the game a little bit, and Christian can watch and laugh at my pathetic attempts to pass through his game, and then we'll do a little bit of a Q&A. So we will take questions at the end, although you can feel free to throw a couple of questions and I will fold them into the conversation if I can, but you will get a chance to ask questions at the end also. So I guess let me lead off with this, which is before I even get to the writing credentials. So you're an MD.
Yes, sir.
You were an MD, and I want to know a little bit about how we get from you as a medical doctor to you as a game designer and producer. Like, what's that path look like for you?
So it's really the other way around,
Oh,
which is really
okay.
goofy. So if I've got my Soldier Final Fantasy t-shirt on.
Yep.
I've always been a video game player. I loved it. And I played a lot of Super Nintendo, PlayStation games growing up.
Okay.
And I love two series in particular, Resident Evil and Metal Gear Solid. And so I have three graduate degrees. The first one is a pharmaceutical science degree
Okay.
because Resident Evil, the Umbrella Corporation, got me interested in pharmaceuticals.
Is that really true? Is that
That's
really?
100%.
Oh my God.
Yep, that's
Okay.
100% true. I have an Umbrella Corporation t-shirt. It's one of my favorite t-shirts. I've had it for I think 15,
You,
20
you
years
you did
now.
get the message that it was not a good thing that they developed that, right? I just want to be clear that when you did it for good, right? I just want to make sure that you didn't
Oh,
follow the Umbrella Corporation.
allegedly, those were bad things. Alleged
Allegedly, yeah, yeah.
weapon developers. But so that got me really interested in pharmaceuticals. So
Okay.
got a pharmaceutical degree. I was working at Mass General for a while, making radioactive pharmaceuticals, learned how to run a particle accelerator,
Cool.
loved all that stuff.
Nice.
And then Metal Gear Solid with their genome army and their super soldiers and everything got me interested in medicine. I was like, okay, how do you design a better soldier? How do you design a more fit human or something like that?
Wow.
That got me really interested in medicine, went into medicine, and then I was like, I kind of miss all the high tech stuff and prototype equipment
Mm-hmm.
and like cutting edge stuff that I'm doing that medicine wasn't necessarily doing. So then I went and I got an MBA and started working in business and doing consulting. But that whole time when I was in med school, when I was in grad school for pharmaceuticals, I was playing video games, playing video games. And when Dave Marsh in 2014 rebooted Shadowgate,
Yep.
I backed this Kickstarter, opted to become a tester, and spent like 70 hours testing that over summer break between first and second year of medical school. And then I got a hold of his email and I just haven't left him alone since. So
And it's funny because we back in 2014, I interviewed Zojoy, and I'm pretty sure
yeah,
Dave Marsh was one of them about the
yeah.
rebooted Shadowgate back in the day. But of course, at the time, you started out as this Kickstarter. That's fascinating. So it really is the case that video games defined your career at different times, even if it wasn't in video games precisely that you were doing
It's
that.
No, that's totally correct. It actually, I always loved stories. I always loved reading as a kid. I read all the Sherlock Holmes books
I
as a
love
little kid.
those. Yep.
Stephen King, a lot of stuff I could get my hands on. Anything that had a good story. I gravitated towards video games that had a narrative.
Mm-hmm.
So we were talking about Final Fantasy IV, Soul Blazer, all those Super Nintendo games
Yep.
earlier,
Yep.
or that left something up to your imagination. That's always what I was entranced with. And then Shadowgate was one of those types of games that really got me excited about stuff. So they kind of form my life. I listen to a lot of electronic music because I grew up playing video games, so I'm accustomed to that type of sound. So it
Nice.
really has formulated a lot of things, an embarrassing amount of things, basically. I try not to tell people that.
Well, I mean, it's probably we've reached a different stage maybe now where people are less likely to be, sort of to blink about that because
Yeah.
narratives have improved. I mean, I did my little game of the year show that I do every year a couple days ago, and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was my game of the year. I think I continue to think that that is a triumph. That and remake is an absolute triumph because they could have made a game that was just the game and slapped some new graphics on it and called it a day. Instead, they really redefined how we think of remakes, like in terms of reconstructing story and decentered narratives and all this stuff. But I was thinking about the fact when you play games like that, not to mention independent games with excellent writing, like your game, for
Thank you.
instance, it like it's very hard then to look at it and go, these are sort of a subpar storytelling mechanism. I don't think that's true anymore. I mean, it may never have been true. It's certainly not true now. I feel like you're getting great narratives out of a lot of out of game design, which actually leads me to a follow up question before we get into your game specifically. Your games, is there a game you mentioned a few of them that were very influential to you? Is there a game that, as a writer slash game designer, you were deeply inspired by, or very much sort of? I know Shadowgate specifically has
Yeah.
a sort of close proximity to your heart, but there must have been other ones besides the ones you've mentioned that had that kind of inspiration from a writing point of view. Would you
Yeah.
say?
There are a ton, and it's actually a hard question because there are so many. So I'll go back to Kojima. So I played Snatcher for the first time. His game Snatcher prior to Metal Gear Solid, he
Okay.
came up with a text-based game, Snatcher, which was followed by Police Knots. Played that in about 2008 or 2009, and the pacing of the story, the nature of it, it was a little goofy, but it kind of fit a lot of stuff from Blade Runner.
Yeah.
I was always a fan of that. And then the movie Terminator, Terminator 1 and Terminator 2 are profound philosophical movies. I don't
Sure.
care what anybody says. Yeah, there's action, but they're very philosophical. So those kind of things together just got me thinking about what the future could be like
Mm-hmm.
and how you could steer things and how there really is a lot that's up to the person. So games that are like that, that leave questions at the end sometimes, or that they don't spell everything out and they just kind of let your imagination wander and ask the question of what if,
Yep.
are kind of more profound, or games that have a very human element. So going back to Final Fantasy IV, the reason I like that one, and I keep going back to them, is because each one of those characters, you know why they're there. At all times, you know what their motivation is.
Yes.
You know why they're there. They have a unique theme. And then to go to the point about video games and the narratives you can get out of them, and maybe there's some part compared to a standard book. I don't believe that. It really is something special. You have just text on a screen. That's it. Like, try to work with that, and you're not going to impress anybody.
Right.
When you have the music behind that, and you have the scenario behind that, and then you have the gameplay behind that, and you're giving the player some agency, you can get somebody more immersed in something than you can with simply a book, and that's simply neuroscience. I've
Mm-hmm.
read papers about that. When we worked on Shadowgate VR, I looked up how to increase immersion in VR. There's like neuroscience papers written about that. So I actually tried to use some of those tactics to increase player immersion, give them more agency, which in turn creates more joy and a better sense of fulfillment at the end of a game.
That's
So
interesting.
again, I'm nerding out with all that stuff and bringing it back in. But yeah, I really do feel that gaming is a profound form of media. I think that you can actually tell a better story through gaming. A good example of that is Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core. Have you ever played that?
I have not. I'm somewhat familiar with it, and I've actually seen it played a couple times. But
Mhm.
I love Final Fantasy VII is one of my
Yeah.
favorite games. Period. Before the remake or rebirth, but Crisis Core went off to the side on the lore a little bit. But I do know
Yeah.
about it. Yeah.
It did. The gist of it is basically there's a point where a character faces insurmountable odds and goes into fight anyway, and you're doing the fighting, and it continues until you, the player, stop fighting.
Mm-hmm.
God of War 3 did that as well.
Yep.
And that's something you can't do with a book, and it gets you really invested in it as well. So it's no longer the player or the character, it's now the player fighting the fight. And that's a feeling that you can't really generate in text sometimes. So
That's
I
interesting.
like that component of gaming.
That's
At least that's
interesting.
my opinion. So.
Yeah. That's interesting. So I assume then you've played Death Stranding. I'm guessing because of
So
the
I
Kojima
tried to play
connection.
Death Stranding,
Oh,
actually, to
really?
be honest. So that was a tough one for me because the controls were I had limited time and I got a hold of it, and the controls were so horrendous to me as I was trying to play it. Basically, I walked and I fell over. I dropped my package into a stream. I walked and fell over. I was talking to my brother about it the other day. He actually did play it and beat it, and he was like, "I was on a bike, dude. I was on a bike and I fell into a river, and then my bike sunk into the river, and I never got the bike back." He was,
Sounds like a
so the
deep childhood
mechanics are
trauma we're reliving. Like, and I lost my bike in the river.
It's true, but yeah, so that's another one where actually the reason I brought it up to my brother was because I do want to give it a second chance play through. And then I had recently seen his new trailer for Death Stranding 2, and I was like, the man just needs to be in Hollywood already.
Yeah.
It's about time, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, it's true, and I do think there is sometimes a risk of people getting a little bit confused about what mediums do which. Like I think Chris Roberts would have been much better off if he could have just stayed in Hollywood and maybe been a better director. But I mean, stayed in Hollywood and not because his games were always attempting to push towards being that way anyway. I think he was limited by it when he was doing Wing Commander 2, which
Mhm.
is actually, I think, what made those better games. I think the reason that we have still not seen Star Citizen come out in any official release, and I'm not convinced it ever will, is because he's basically trying to make an interactive movie, and I'm not sure that that's quite the right medium for what he's trying to do. So yeah, I think a little bit about that with Kojima, where it feels like some of the stuff as we go further along, you're like, all right, now you
Yeah,
clearly want to go in this direction. Cage with Detroit Become Human has this thing too. I think, which is
that's
very
another
movie
one.
driven.
I'm trying to think of the other movie-driven games. Until Dawn
Yeah,
wasn't.
yeah, yeah.
That's like another, and
Even
that
Last
whole
of Us a little bit, right? It has got a little
yeah.
bit of that mode.
Yeah, which takes place in Boston too, actually. That's
That's
and
true.
then if you watch the show, my favorite thing is when they do 10 miles west of Boston, it's like a barren wasteland. If you watch the show.
Well, that is
I'm
what
like, no
Somerville
way.
is. Let's be honest. Completely a barren wasteland. I I got my doctorate at Brandeis, so we used to.
Oh,
I
yeah,
spent
yeah.
a number of years out in Waltham and the environs. So
Yeah, nobody in Somerville come after me for that. I'm not endorsing that comment. That is not my view. It is a
just
civilized place.
kidding, just kidding. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about your specific journey then with Beyond Shadowgate. So,
Yeah.
you basically said you got Dave's email and then you wouldn't leave him alone, and you
Yeah.
became a tester and all this stuff. There must have been a point. Did you approach him at some point? You were like, "Listen, I got a great idea for the next step. Bring me on, coach." Like, was there? Did you reach out to him? Was it mutual in terms of when you moved beyond just the testing phase to I would actually like to be writing and producing and
Yeah.
designing stuff like this?
So the actual, and this is the honest truth of the way that happened, and it's kind of a sad and funny story at the same time. So the way that came about, I wish Dave was here because he would verify it. His nickname for me is Tenacity Incarnate, and he's like, I'm not going to be able to retire because of you. Like you won't leave me alone. So 2014 became 2018. He started working on Argonus and the Gods of Stone, which was another game Zojoy made, and I offered to be a tester for that too. We went through that. They published that, and that was the first time I really met the rest of the team in Zojoy
Okay.
because worked like 80 hours on that one. I submitted hundreds of bugs and was going through. So that's when I really started to talk to them frequently. And then another year went by, and I sent him a message, and I was just like, "Hey, just checking in. Do you have anything?" He said, "Nah." And then another year went by, I checked in again. Do you have anything? And he was like, "Well, can you do art?" I was like, "Nah, definitely not." And he was like, "Can you code?" And I was like, "Whoa, no, 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 that's not me." He's like, "Can you do music?" I was like, no, not in the least." He was like, "Well, you can't really do anything." He was like, "Can you be sarcastic?" And I was like, "I am but a humble scientist, but I can give it a shot." And he was like, "Well, we have a hint system in this new game we're working on, and we have a voice actor. So if you could, just write some dialogue to tell the player to hurry up." So gave me half an hour. I wrote like 20, 30 lines, sent them back to him. He called me up. He was like, "This is hysterical. Congratulations, you're the writer, and you got to take it off like 20% because you're going to give people a complex. You are too rough with these."
Wow. Okay.
So I was like, all right, great. So I wrote in the Shadowgate VR game, I wrote Odin the Raven.
Okay.
So a lot of his text, anything to give you a hint or hurry up. And he sent me a VR headset. And so I started working, testing on that. And then I did a little bit of the design, like put an item here. What if we did this? What if we did that? And so we wrapped on Shadowgate VR, and I was like, "Hey, you got anything else to do?" He was like, "I swear, Chris, this is too much. You got to stop doing." And he was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Well, I have the design document for Beyond Shadowgate." And I was like, "Wait, what? What do you mean Beyond Shadow?" He was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. So back in 1990, we made it, and we handed it off to another team, and they made something on the TurboGrafx system.
Right.
But it was entirely different. I didn't have anything to do with it. I met with him for 1 hour, and then we just handed it off." He was like, "But it's just sitting in my basement." And as a fan, I was like, "Can I see it?"
Yeah.
He was like, "Yeah, sure. I'll send it to you." He was like, "But you can't do anything. You don't have a team. Like, we can't make it. I can't have the VR guys work on it. We're constrained." And I was like, "Well, there are guys that make fan games of Shadowgate, and they're good.
Right.
Maybe we can reach out to them."
Right.
And so that's how we found the Graph Metal team. And we called them up and we were like, "Hey, would you guys be interested in this?" And they were like, "Oh yeah." So it's Graph Metal. They're a couple of brothers. One's a pixel artist, one's a programmer, and then they had a composer that they work with as well. And they were like, "Okay, send us the document." Showed them the design document. They sent a couple ideas back for screens, and we're like, "Okay, sold." So that became the team on Beyond Shadowgate. And then so they were all seasoned professionals. I've been working with Zojo for I think 7 or 8 years at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So I represented the Zojoy side of it, and then we just got together and we started building the game. And that's how that
So,
came to.
so you were the guy who made the direct connection then with the graph metal folks. Like, is
Yep.
basically what you. Oh,
Yeah, that's correct.
okay.
I got their games, Infested and Spectacle, started
Yeah.
playing them. I was like, these are really good. I sent them to Dave. Dave started playing them. He was like, wow, yeah, these guys are really good. And so yeah, that's how we found them. We got everybody together.
That's super cool. Wow. So I did, that explains quite a bit about how all this came together because you had Dave who was the OG really,
Yeah.
but you were the one who sort of made that connection with the people who, I have to say, I have had a good relationship for a long time with Harebrained Schemes who did, Shadowrun and Shadowrun Hong
Oh, yeah.
Kong and
Wow.
Dragonfall
Yeah.
and all that. And know Mitch Gittleman quite well, who was the guy who ran that studio. So the thing is, everybody knows about Jordan Weissman because Jordan was the big creative, he's the Shadowrun developer. He's the guy who did Battletech develop, like, he's the guy. But the one who made the studio run was
Mhm.
Mitch, right? The one who connected everybody, who got everybody paid, who, figured out how to take Jordan's genius and put it in a level that anyone could actually follow, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm being a little facetious, but more or less that's the case. Was Mitch, and I always thought that the key was not just to have someone who is themselves creative, as you obviously are, but
Thank you.
someone who can kind of see what it is that someone brings to the table creatively and be like, you folks here, let me get you together because you
Yeah.
obviously would work for that setup that they have. So that's interesting to me that you were really as much a coordinator, at least at the beginning, as you were
Mhm.
writing and designing it, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, so that's kind of really how it came together, and I can't give enough credit to Jason the programmer, Jeff the pixel artist, and Ori Falconer the composer. Those guys are phenomenal independently, and they are professional, so that just made everything easier to
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
And we jumped right in, we got right on top of it. The way, even more background of how it came together. Dave's design, Dave was working on a different game as well, so he was kind of pulled back from the project. He got everybody together, we all made the agreements, and then he kind of set us off to the side to do our own thing.
Okay.
And together, I think he sent us 300, maybe 400, several hundred pages worth of design documents. The game was done. I can't impress that enough.
Wow.
All the art, all the text, everything was done. But excuse me, the way it was done was in the Mac Venture style for a Mac game.
Right.
And we knew we wanted to make it in the NES style. So as a team, we actually had to tear that whole version down and basically start from scratch
Oh,
to
really?
regenerate it for an NES style game. So the original game was, I think, 450 rooms for Macintosh. A lot of it was dead space, transition rooms designed to give you a sense of vastness of the
Okay.
world.
Okay.
And then we were like, okay, guys, the game goal is 90 rooms. So we had to cut it from 450 down to 90.
Oof.
And then because we were all super fans, that that 90 all of a sudden became 130 and then it became
Oh, I
150.
see. I see. So you
And
went
then
back up
because,
then the other way.
yeah, exactly. And then because I had the, awesome, brilliant idea of running a Kickstarter for it to all get us, paid and to make it a big commemorative thing and this
Mm-hmm.
and that and have the physical cartridges and everything. Then all of a sudden we hit the stretch goals of Uninvited, Deja Vu, and Minds of Mythrock. Now all of a sudden it went up to 230. We were like, oh man, we got to stop advertising this Kickstarter because we don't want any more. This game's big enough already. Then we had another 20 something rooms on top of that to hit around 250, I think, because we just got really excited and started doing extra stuff. So that's the story behind that.
Wow, tear down and then put back together. Well, I'm glad you did it in the NES style because because that was how I encountered it, right? In '88 or whatever it was when it came out. I played it and I still remember very distinctly the box art, the gargoyle on the front and everything.
Yeah.
And I played it on Nintendo, the original Nintendo system. So I was completely clueless when people were like, "Oh yeah, the Mac game." I'm like, "The Mac game? No, it's a Nintendo game." And it was, as you say, a very different sort of design. All right. Well, then let me ask this then.
Yeah.
Did you, in the process of rebuilding and you're building up the rooms again,
Mhm.
this question of vastness,
Yeah.
um, how did you recreate that since you were cutting down on the sort of the empty space transition rooms? It can't be just it can't just be the actual transition thing. Did you talk about how you were going to create a sense of space and scale within the game as you were
Yeah.
rebuilding it?
Yeah, that was very interesting. And I don't wanna we may have to have a follow-up conversation because I don't want to spoil it for you because you're at about the midway point in the game when
Okay.
you last left off on stream.
Okay.
And I can tell you a story about the artist for the gargoyle and the box art too, Stephen Perringer,
Ooh, okay.
that's super fun too. Um, We had the original segments of the game. Now, we split it into chapters. It wasn't done like that in the Mac Venture version,
Mm-hmm.
but there were distinct areas that actually made it into the TurboGrafx version. They took the names of the places and like
Mm-hmm.
5 characters, and then they just went rogue. But it was set up. There was a desert region. There was a small swamp. There was the Gatekeeper Mountain region. There was the town of Gwynenthel, the dungeons, all that kind of stuff existed.
Right.
And so we had a general template for where you would go throughout the game. And to get the vastness for that, it's really a combination of a few things. A lot of this, and Graph Metal Jeff, the pixel artist, is very exceptional at what he does. So he only uses MS Paint. The whole game was made in MS Paint, all the art.
Wow.
And he likes to constrain himself like that because it makes him more creative. But he was able to give a sense of space even in the dungeons, his perspective work was really good. But then, if you remember, as you're going through the forest area, there's that one ledge with a soldier on it.
Yes.
As
Yes.
you stare on that ledge, you can look off and you see the desert and you see the mansion and everything
Yes.
like that. That's one of the ways that we do, that we give you a sense of how big it is.
Okay.
The other way were the NPCs in the town. We gave you several different NPCs with different styles of speech, different motivations for what they felt was important
Right.
to give you an idea that it is a world beyond the castle. And they're vaguely aware of the history of the world and this and that. And then on the back end internally, Dave Marsh he's got another guy that works with us, Chris Geisert, who does a lot of the marketing and promotions. He made the Shadowgate, the Living Castle board game.
Mm-hmm.
He's gotten all of the literature together from all the Shadowgate games and compiled it into a 350-page book that he
Jeez.
made. So there's so much there that you can just pull from. So that gave us the sense of history, the sense of culture,
Yeah.
religion in the game. And then Jeff did the actual imagery to make it sound vast. And then Ori Falconer did so many different tunes that sound substantially different. So those kind of things all come together. And in the planning stage, it was really, we would sketch out the rooms together, and then Jeff would come back with some artwork,
Okay.
and then I'd write the text surrounding his artwork as we went. So we would
Okay.
kind of piece these areas together.
That's interesting. So there was a lot of sort of back and forth, it sounds
Mhm.
like, as this was not a everyone go off to their own silos and then we all huddle and see what we get. There was a lot
Yeah,
of back and forth among you, I assume, then, about working around writing, informing art, and vice versa. Yes?
that's
That's
correct.
okay.
We had a lot of, there was a saying, art dictates the puzzle, is something we
Oh,
would
that's
say
cool.
constantly, where we had an idea for a puzzle, or we knew where there would be a locked door.
Yeah.
And the question was, well, like, we know what the door is going to look like. And so Jason would say, art dictates the puzzle. Jeff would come back with this awesome looking thing, and I would get my eyes on it and be like, okay, sweet, this is what we're going to do with it. and then we'd have that conversation. But Jeff and I were in contact nearly every day.
Wow.
Again, super fans. So we were working on this on the weekends, weekday, all the time, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and the thing that I mentioned, I talked to you about that. I mentioned this before we went live. It really, and it's not just because you're chatting with me now. It is a very very well done game,
Thank you.
and one of the reasons is that the love is so obvious within the game. You know, like it really is, and it's not the as Drew just said, it's bonkers that that's all done with MS Paint. I'm still trying to kind of conjure that in my head, like, oh my god. But that you've already heard us rave when you've been in chat about the writing, which you did wonderfully with that sort of you got the vibe of it, right? And also I'm a musician, and so the music was just dead on.
Yeah.
It's exactly that kind of airy, mysterious. You remember in the original Shadowgate when you
Mhm.
first enter the courtyard,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
there's this sort of like the sky behind, and there's a fountain in the middle of it, and there's this sort of
Yeah.
do 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 type of thing,
Mhm.
which just and again, it's you're talking about on a Nintendo, couple of voices, right? 8 bits, a couple of voices that are actually providing this music. But just like something with Metroid, which I think is one of the most brilliant
That's a great one.
limited soundtracks and so on. So it sounds like the composer for this had that same kind of love. So
Mhm.
I guess the question is, I don't know that I have a question except just to rave about how great it is. No, I do have a question. How
Yeah.
did you all, I guess, take the fan based love for it, which
Mhm.
can sometimes in certain circumstances lead to bloat or it would be great if we added this into our super overstuffed calzone of awesome, right? And you're like, well, then you no longer have a calzone of awesome. You just have a stew of tomato sauce and cheese. Like, what
Yeah.
is this? How did you, I guess, limit yourselves so that the love is obvious, but doesn't override the need for the game to like have forward momentum, if that question makes any sense?
No, it does. That makes perfect sense. And that was something we ran into a lot, actually. And again, going back to the Kickstarter example, that's why we were like, no more stretch goals. Nobody talk about stretch goals. No more. We don't want it to become bloated because that's a problem. So I would say it came from a few different places. The first one is we played the game when we were kids. Now we're adults. We know we don't have infinite time to sit and play these, and we wanted to make a game we would love to play.
Right.
And part of the amazing thing about Shadowgate, and Dave will point this out all the time, is it's never been out of print, so to speak. It's been ported like 16 times in 35 years.
Yep.
It's on cell phones.
Yep.
It's on several different Game Boy Color. It's on Steam. It's on PlayStation 4 now. They did a physical release, all that stuff.
Yep.
And part of the charm is you can beat it in 20 something minutes.
Yeah.
Like you play through, it's a fun adventure. You go see the things you want to see, you get through. The soundtrack's memorable. So we wanted to make something that you could play through relatively quickly, especially when you know how you do it. And I love the speedrunners in this community because I think they're at like 26 minutes for Beyond Shadowgate, which is awesome.
I cry in what am I at 6 hours and 22 minutes midway through.
No,
That's
you're right
a
on target. That's it. Usually
okay.
it's between 6 and 12 hours for first time players,
Okay.
depending on how used to it they are. But to answer your question about how we stopped it from getting bloated, I still had my MBA hat in my, we're a businessman, we got to make a product, we got to make money, guys. Like
Right.
this is cool, but now's not the time. Does it meaningfully contribute to what we're trying to accomplish here?
Okay.
And the key word I kept using was impact. I want the player to feel the impact of what they do, the weight of their decisions. I want it, to really, every time they're in a new place, when I would sketch out a new chapter, I would say, Dell is doing this, and in this chapter, he's feeling this, and it's leading to this. To which I would hand that to the composer ahead of time. And that's how he would know what to do for the area before he had any art.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jason, the programmer, again, fantastic professional. He's been in the industry for, I think, 15, 20 years, maybe. Worked on, I think, a couple dozen games.
Okay.
Um, so he's been at it for a long time, too. And he was like, all right, creatives, time for you guys to stop creating. Like, we've got enough here. Our mission is accomplished. This is not a meaningful addition. Yes, it's cool. Yes, it builds the lore. It's going to take me this long to make. It's not a substantial difference.
Yeah.
We're going to go with this. So those were the two ways. And again, we would meet, at least a few times a week as a whole
Mm-hmm.
entire team to to answer that.
Did you ever get any? Hi, Crit Twitch. Also, and welcome everybody for folks who have come in. You're watching me talking with Christian Moseley, who is the writer, designer, developer with the Zojoy team that put together Beyond Shadowgate, and was single-handedly responsible. No, not quite, but was hugely responsible though for being able to bring people together to make this happen, along with the experts that he's mentioned already. So you will have a chance to ask a few questions later on. So were there moments where like, or how did disagreements get handled? Like, because I assume there were some moments where people like, no, we've got to have the fish on the fountain spitting out acid for no reason or something. Like, I assume there had to be reasons where you were just kind of like, no, and they were like, yes, no, there's a spitting fountain acid fish, I'm just doing that. How did you resolve those, if there were conflicts of that ever came up? How did you resolve them with everyone still being able to talk to each other in the morning, so to speak?
Yeah, that's a good question. Generally, it was fisticuffs and dual
Okay,
pistols at
so
dawn,
some people didn't
those
make
kind
it.
of
That's
things.
fine. As
Yeah,
long as
I
you know,
mean, yeah,
it wasn't
the
as
team's
small a
small
team
enough.
at the end, right? Like, it's a smaller
Yeah, it
team.
was who hits the hardest.
Mhm.
No, it was again, everybody was a professional. And so those guys had been made, they had already produced those two games, Infested and Spectacle. So they had already been down that road. And I'm fairly easygoing and will listen to reason if a good logical case is presented.
Okay,
So there were, I'll give you an example. The uninvited chapter. Have you been through the uninvited chapter?
I think so. Yeah, because that's the with
Yeah,
the
it
imp and the
precedes
whole
the
bit. And
mansion.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Yep.
So the uninvited chapter, there's a room you can go back into. I can't remember. When you finish the chapter, did you walk back into the foyer of the mansion?
I think no. When I finished the chapter, I was like, I got to get out before five people try to chase me down because I don't. So I don't think I did.
So that's exactly it. The five people try to chase you down. So if you go back into the foyer, you get jumped by all of the big bads from the uninvited game,
Oh,
and you die.
really?
You get a special death and an achievement.
I see. Okay.
So that was an example of a disagreement. That's the one that won, right? The original design for that was you are down in the basement, you do the little ritual, and the wisp
Right.
says, "Oh yeah, good news, bad news. The teleporter works again, but you opened a portal to that place they call hell, and a bunch of things are coming through and they look awful upset."
Yeah.
You move to the right of screen and you see the Southern Belle, the iconic uninvited person. She wasn't supposed to appear there. Jeff had created the whole first floor of the mansion in its entirety. So you were supposed to go out, see one of the demons. It chases you back up the stairs into the main floor, and then you see another demon, and then it chases you into the hallway where you see the Southern Belle,
Oh
and
my
it chases
gosh.
you out the front door. And that was supposed to be an extended Reaper scene sequence.
Okay.
So the Reaper kicks on immediately, and you've got 10 seconds to move to the next room, 10 seconds to move to the next room. That's what I wanted and what I designed. When Jason looked at that and he got that, he was like, no can do, boys. That would deviate from the way the game engine is set up, how it handles your saving, how it kicks you back a room, and basically you create this infinite loop where you keep getting kicked back every time you die if you don't do the Reaper scene
Oh.
correctly. So he was like, no can do. And so then I talked to Jeff and I was like, but you already did all the art, man. You go talk to him. And then Jeff came back and he was like, no can do. He says he won't do it. But then like 2 months went by and we were doing some baller stuff. And I was like, hey, Jason, how do you feel about that uninvited chapter, man? We get all this art and everything. What do you think about it? He was like, dead. No, not going to do it. I was like, but can you explain to me why it's not going to work? And he was like, yeah. So we actually went through and he was like, it would take me a month to redo everything to be able to do just that. And I was like, okay. I understand now. I'm going to tell everybody what we had because that would have been awesome. I'm going to point my finger at you for not getting it in the
Yeah,
game.
of course, of
But
course.
but otherwise, it still worked and we still got to fit the achievement in. So that was really how we did it. We would just have a discussion. Is there something we can do? Yes or no? Is it going to take us an unusual amount of time? If yes, it's out. If it's, we'll check at it. We had a polish, thing that we were looking at. We just had a big running list of polish items. If we can get to them, it'd be nice to have. So that's generally how we did it. And that's probably the major one where we really went back and forth several times on it. But
That's
no, everybody, like, we got along really, really well as a team. Everybody had a lot of respect. I've met Jason in person too. He's in Southern California from time to time.
okay.
So, yeah, we have a great rapport with one another. So it really, there were very few bloody noses, not too many.
That's I mean, and again, that also, I think there's a harmony of elements in this game that I've noticed so that it doesn't feel as if anything is pulling against anything else. It sort of seems to cohere, and not every game is like that. There are, as I'm sure you know, I mean, there are multiple games where it feels as if you're fighting some aspect of it. I was talking about this with there's a game called Jusant, which you may, I don't know if you've played that, but where it's all about climbing up a mountain. And I love the concept and the lore and the story, but the controls are an unmitigated disaster. And I mean, they're a disaster on controller, they're a disaster on keyboard. And at a certain point, I'm like, if you're going to have a climbing game, it doesn't matter how cozy you claim it is or how chill or how relaxed if you can't make the goddamn guy go up the freaking handholds that you want them to go up. Like at a certain point, like that's just a fundamental core part of the game. And I just found I was fighting an aspect of the mechanics that was enormously important to climb up the mountain. And I had to give up on it eventually, which was a shame. But
Yeah.
that was an example of, I think, things that just, there was a friction there that didn't get solved. Have you ever played the game Dredge by chance?
Actually, I just with my nephew, I just over this break, I literally started playing it the other day. Yeah.
So good. It ties so well together thematically, and is an example of the opposite, like a game where all the elements cohere.
Mhm.
And so yeah, and I, especially if you're a horror guy, I think Dredge will be right up your alley. It's really like Dredge a lot. Um all right, well, so last question for me before we start playing a bit, and I'll have a chance to go through and you can laugh at my attempts. When you were starting to go through, I guess, the play testing element of this, because it is substantially longer and larger than Shadowgate, and so forth. Um, one of the things that I really have appreciated about this game is that it feels like it's paced exceedingly well, even to the
Thank you.
level of the puzzle. So,
Mhm.
there are puzzles that are hard, and there are puzzles that I'm like, oh, that I think this is clearly it. I didn't find what I sometimes find with a lot of point and click adventure ones, that I get very annoyed with adventure game logic, where I'm like, I just want to take the thing and put it on the shelf and move the candlestick. Like, don't tell me I need to go around, move the candlestick, go kill a dragon, take his tooth so I can
Yeah, yeah,
pick up
yeah.
the candlestick. I mean, come on. So like the worst offender for that is Mist. Beautiful environmentally, but oh my God,
Couldn't play it.
there are puzzles in there that I'm just like, what is this, right? So I guess my question here is, when you were doing playtesting,
Mhm.
what for you was the sort of guiding principle in terms of what was too much challenge, the level of frustration you wanted people to experience? Were there elements where people were like, I just can't manage it, and you're like, okay, I got to back off on this puzzle?
Mhm.
Or were you like, no, maybe this just isn't the right game for that particular player? I'm wondering how you balanced those things out.
We so saying we got lucky isn't the correct way to characterize it. It went smoothly, smoother than I would have anticipated.
Okay.
And it came from what you said before, is all the different elements coming together and having constant oversight over one another.
Okay.
And the way that we did our process is I would typically come up with a design. I'd run it by Jeff, the artist. Jeff would take a look at it and say, yeah, I like that. No, I don't like that. Yeah, I like that. This makes sense. We would go back and forth. We would hand it to the programmer who's like conceptually good, logic's good, so on and so forth. And then he would start to build and design it. So we had three sets of eyes on it already.
Okay.
I don't really like adventure games, to be perfectly frank, for that reason. Like I said, I got 20 minutes into Myst. I thought it was beautiful, and I was like, this, I can't do anything.
All right.
Um, the moon logic never really applied to me. And again, all my training is in science and medicine, and it's very logic based,
Right.
So it I wanted players to think, not guess or use brute force.
Mm-hmm.
And so anytime there was a puzzle, it makes sense within the context of a fantasy world making sense,
Of course.
magical things do magical
Of
things,
course.
keys do key thing, they open locks, that kind of stuff. There was distance. Most of the items in the game are used within their chapter, which also helps us keep inventory down, which is
Yes,
good.
and also
Inventory
thank you,
management.
because that's a little, yeah.
Yeah.
The hoarding problem is bad enough with role playing game people, to
Yep.
begin with. So
So I didn't like that either. So that was another component of it. And then there's also a lot of work we did on colors. Look at color schemes. And it's why I tell people look at everything that looks like it can be looked at.
right,
And if you're stumped, look at the lock, look at your inventory.
yeah,
There's text-based stuff there too, certain words, certain phrases. And then, like I said, certain colors of things too will line up. And as you go through and play through a second time, you may notice it more. But once you've seen it once, you're like, for instance, the uninvited area, you picked up 4 red ruby
Yep.
shards as you went through.
Yep.
What did you run into? A big ruby red skull
Yep.
right at the door,
Yep.
you know? So there's that kind of stuff. So that's really how we did it. And then we did playtest extensively. Dave Marsh playtested it. We actually ran a lot of our early stuff by him too, just so he was like, nope, seal of approval. And then we had a bunch of people playtest. I think I put probably close to 1,000 hours. So, and a
Wow.
lot of the team, we would get a new build that would have a new chapter, a new few rooms, and we would hammer on it. Using controllers, using keyboard, reading the text, checking the art, did audio cue, do we have stings in there, all that stuff.
Wow.
So we polished the heck out of it before we even put it out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, and that actually that shows for sure. Thank you, first of all, Kooky Canuck, for the sub. I appreciate it. 64 months. Let's go. Is what I
Oh,
like to
wow.
see. Thank you, thank you. And happy New Year to you, Kooky. I hope all's well. Thanks a lot. I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I mean that level of polish is also evident. It's why I felt bad the other night when I was just kind of like, so there's a slight grammatical thing, because I was
Oh,
like, I
yeah.
don't want to be that guy. I like, of course you notice it. I'm like, I'm sorry. I don't, because it was
No,
so
they,
well polished, and not janky.
no,
So
I appreciate you saying it was well polished. That's a thing. And at another point, I can share how we actually did all the writing and how we got all the writing into the game. And that's been a whole nother thing in and of itself, which was a lot of fun. Last thing, if I can say before
sure,
we dive in, the artist, the box art, the gargoyle.
yes,
So about half early on in production, we were talking about making the physical carts and everything, and we wanted to do a new box, a manual, all that stuff.
right,
And so I was like, everybody knows the gargoyle. It's super iconic. I was like, let's try to find the original artist. Let's see if we can bring him back.
okay,
Because we couldn't bring back the original composer. So we were like, let's find the original artist. I ended up finding him. His name is Stephen Perringer, and he had a website, and he had done so many video game boxes from the Nintendo and Super Nintendo era
mm-hmm,
that I absolutely adored. Like Legend of Final Fantasy Mystic Quest is one of them.
yep,
Final Fantasy Legends is another. That's all him. He has this beautiful airbrush style. We got in touch with him literally, like, I think a week after he changed his Facebook page back to the gargoyle. Like, he made that his icon for it. And he was immediately on board, super excited about it. So we were able to bring the original artist back to do the Beyond Shadowgate box art. And that cover image that we have on the Steam page is him. And so we had already designed a big chunk of the game and had the ideas together for how we wanted it to progress through the
mm-hmm,
chapters, the big vast world. We showed it to him and just let him go for a week. He came back and he got it right off the bat. And he just totally understood, came up with something completely under his own power. And we were like, you nailed it. And we didn't even explain that part to you. So it
wow.
really worked out super well. You haven't seen it yet, but the game is really a palindrome. Like you'll understand it when you get to the end and then go back and look at the art and you'll be like, oh, I
I see
see.
what was going on.
Yeah.
That's very cool. And yeah, there are a couple of iconic levels of art that I remember from that time. One of them is this. Another one is there was an artist for the what was a board game originally called Dark Tower.
Mhm.
And the original Dark Tower, which was itself 1983 or 84, but it's this tower you had like ran on 2D batteries, and I still have my original back there, which I had to repair. And so the art in that is basically this layered art. But at the time, of course, we're talking physically layered art. Like the
Yeah.
guy would lay it down, and it has this strange, almost sort of stained glass effect. And it's incredibly striking. It's just not something you typically see. Another example, the Fighting Fantasy game book art that I mentioned before. A
Mhm.
lot of that art, too, is striking and unusual, or the sorcery game book art and so forth. So this is an example of that where it's like you can now, when you mentioned it, you can completely see it. Like you look
Yeah.
at the cover and you immediately see what Beyond Shadowgate is doing in terms of that art as well. So of course, same artist, but it's just there's something there about the marrying of old and new. I think
Mhm.
that sort of ties together nicely. One last question, actually,
Yeah.
before we dive into this, which is just
Yeah.
so it seems to me you're partially treading this line, I guess, between um, reverence and respect and callbacks and nostalgia porn, right? Where you're spending your whole time just sort of like, look, there's a reference, there's a reference. Like this is my problem with a book like Ready Player One. It's nothing
Yeah.
against the book, but the book literally is just remember when you saw that, and, remember, and I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
man, I lived in that life. Yes, I grew up in the '80s. I
Mhm.
then moved beyond it. I'm no longer in the '80s. I mean, it's fun to look back at that stuff. Don't get me wrong, but it is like reference, 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 reference. And this did not feel to me like that. This stands on its own as its own game, but it's just infused with the vibe, as we've talked about, of Shadowgate. So I guess my question is, um, how did you and the team
Mhm.
manage that line between it's nostalgia and we remember it and it's the '80s? And I'm not saying you would consciously do it, but it
Yep.
must have been hard to avoid a little bit of that, especially when you're working with Dave Marsh and a lot of the
Yeah.
original folks there. How did you do the line between we want something new for now for
Mhm.
2024, when it was released, and also paying reverence to the past without being buried in the nostalgia?
No, that was actually a great question I had asked of somebody else. So fundamentally, I mentioned it earlier. We grew up. Everybody grew up. So we know who our target audience is. They were
Mm-hmm.
people that played the original Shadowgate. We're not gonna catch somebody that's playing Fortnite or Call of Duty
Not yet.
with our game. Not yet.
No,
Yeah, not yet. But we knew the target audience, so we knew how they had grown over time effectively. So for me personally, when I took my approach to writing, the game is darker. The game has more brutal deaths and more of them. The game has intrigue that wasn't there originally.
mm-hmm.
There are larger concepts at play than just you're a good guy, go kill bad guy, spooky castle.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was one component of it. And in that, the target audience that I had in my head was like the people that are going to come back are going to expect more now. They want to see the familiar trappings and wallpaper, but they're going to want more. And they're not going to want to crawl through Moon Logic to get it because they're busy. They've got lives now. And they're not going to want things that are overly obtuse. And they're not just going to want to stare at the same game that they played 30 years ago. So we have to give them something new,
Yeah.
but we're still going to make it look like the old game. And that's our choice for the 8-bit retro
Yep.
style, you
Yep.
know? And we're going to make it sound like that. And it's going to feel, and you're going to get the little brrrr as you go through screen to screen to screen.
Yeah,
And
I
the
love that.
movement is going to be the same. The user interface is going to be familiar, but slightly different and polished. So we took that approach. And then one day I went to an event. There's the Clock Tower series of video games
Mm-hmm. Yep.
from the Super Famicom, PlayStation, all that.
Yep.
They were doing an event in LA for the art for that. And Muriel Cartwright, I believe is her name, who was one of the artists on that, was having a Q&A session just like this. And I stood up and I said, "Hi, I'm working on Shadowgate. It's 35-year-old property." She was like, "Yeah, I know it." I was like, "You're working on a 30-year-old property. You're updating it. How do you do that with a modern audience?" And her response was, "We looked at the players now that we're likely to get. We looked at the players who played it before, and we just really have a lot of love for the original property. So we're building the game we would have liked to have seen then with today's technology and
Ah,
mechanics and standards." And I was like, "Hey, us too. Sweet. We're on the right track."
we're on the right track. That's interesting. Yeah. So the and it I have always thought that you're really looking for the essence of a thing. And if you get the essence of the thing, the trappings of it become sort of less significant than did you get the essence so that people have a similar feeling of as they're playing the game, but they have the feeling now, so they don't have to go and let me go do graph paper back in the like I
Exactly.
have a my chat knows I have a fairly legendary anti-wizardry rant because the Nintendo version of wizardry, which is just this godforsaken combination of it's all about character realism, and I'm like, we really have to abandon this at the point that we're dealing with orcs in a dungeon with, I mean, like we've already abandoned reality, so why this is the hill you're going to die on, which is encumbrance and so on, is
Yeah.
drives me up a wall. But
Oh, yeah.
but this seems like you really went for the essence of a thing, which made it easier, I suppose, than to be able to build from that. Like you have the essence nailed, and so that gives you a little more room to maneuver, I suppose.
Correct.
Especially when you added all those rooms that you mentioned. So it wasn't just the same very constrained space anymore. It was a lot
Oh my God.
bigger
Yeah,
than you
writing
planned.
Deja Vu was that was probably one of the roughest ones to write because I'm taking a fantasy character that is inherently a fantastic character, the Hobbit kind of character,
Yeah.
and sticking it in 1940s Chicago. It was like, oh, and you'll see, you're gonna get there soon, but it was like, how, well, actually, this is a good exercise. How do you do it? Like that was, and so it was the thought. Does he inhabit the body of the protagonist from the first game? Does he inhabit somebody else? When
Yeah.
does it take place in relation to the first game? What's the order of it? Does he go in himself? If he goes in himself, he's in a completely foreign world. It's a fantastic game, but there are logic rules and constraints even in a fantastic world,
Yeah.
right? Like there's a certain type of rationale to it, even
Absolutely.
if you can just say a spell. So those are all constraints you have to fit in. And then I'm like, this is a 20 room Kickstarter add-on that we aren't, this isn't going to move the needle for the game very much. So we got to do this in a timely fashion,
Right.
have it make sense and have it fit the narrative. And that was tough. That was not trivial.
Interesting. Yeah, because otherwise it sort of it does sort of overbalance the other things because you're really trying to get the damn game out, ultimately. And as we were speaking about Chris Roberts before. But anyway. All right. Well, let me get rid of that. So chat again for those of you who come in. I'm speaking to Christian Moseley, the writer and designer and one of the developers of from Zojoy of Beyond Shadowgate. And what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna play a little bit. I don't want to keep Christian on too long. Just play a little bit through a few of these rooms, and then as I do that, and then probably right after, we'll take a few questions if you have any from chat, which I will pass along. And you should absolutely, incidentally, if you have not already done so, you should absolutely go get this game. If you're still here watching this, and we've gotten up to 25 or 26, not counting the YouTube folks, so you should absolutely be the people that are buying this. Because if you want games like this, if you say to yourself, man, they don't make them like they used to. I love games like this, and there should be more. That only happens if you get the sales that sort of correspond to being willing to do more. So spreading the word, letting people know about it, and supporting good story-driven content that draws from the past without being chained by it. That is really this is the kind of thing that you should want in your games, and so you should be getting it if you have not done so already, because it's good stuff, and you can get it from my sister channel, GOG first. But if not, you want to go with Steam, totally get it. And I was mentioning before, I know you said you were working heavily on it because, this is like a Nintendo Switch. It feels like it is just built for, first of all,
Yeah.
Nintendo, but secondly,
Yep.
Switch. So is there
Yeah.
any like progress report, or is that another thing about more sales, and then
You're
we can
you're
do that?
preaching to the choir. I
Yeah.
mean, more sales. I was telling you before we came online. I've been working on. I want to make more games. If we can afford to make more games, I'm keeping Dave Marsh from retirement to make more games. So
Keep
there's
Dave
no,
Marsh
yeah,
retiring.
exactly. Stop him from retiring. I'm going to show him this later. But really, I'm already working on more games. I've already been mapping them out. I've got dozens of rooms set up and puzzles and everything. I'd love to do more. It does come down to sales. This is a business at the end of the day, and we do have to continue to make money because everybody's got to, pay their bills.
Yeah,
And it requires a lot of work and thousands of hours, as I was saying, to bring these things together and do it well, too.
absolutely.
But when it comes to the Switch, since day one, I've been fighting for the Switch and I've been fighting for translations into Japanese because this is still a
Oh,
very well-remembered game in Japan.
absolutely.
I've been talking to streamers over there. Some people have already bought it, but there's 81,000 plus words in the game and it needs to be translated. That's not something you can do Google Translate to. I've seen people do it and they've played through it in Japan, native Japanese speakers that don't speak English, but it doesn't quite land the same with certain things. So I'm trying like crazy to get it on the Switch and the Switch 2, Nintendo, and when that comes through, and then getting it translated into Japanese, the major European languages and all that stuff. So I'm working on it left
Okay.
and right. If I can find a way to do it, I'll do it.
Yeah, because it is the kind of thing that I think there is a momentum here that if you get more people like that are more into it specifically and see what it's about, and also that don't feel like, well, I'm 21. I never played the originals. Like, this does not require you to have played the original to enjoy it. I just think it's an extra bonus to, and obviously it's part of your core audience, to the people who were of an age that they did play,
Yeah.
the original, but it's not required. So I just think the more that you just see a well-developed, well-paced game, the more that people are going to be like, yes, please sign me up. So that I would, anything that can make that happen, including translations, or it just feels like it's tailor made for the Switch, which is why I just kept
Yeah.
thinking about it, because they also have a very strong sort of like indie-ish presence where they, games seem to work well on that screen. So,
Yeah, they
um,
have a huge install base too. And that was, by the way, that was quite purposeful to have it be something that somebody can jump in fresh
yeah,
and have never played the original.
absolutely. I mean, I never felt in any way like I would have needed to have, known the original, but it was a pleasure to be able to, especially with the music and the art that just, and as you say, the UI just feels right.
Oh,
So,
just wait. Yeah, you haven't seen anything
oh
yet.
man, I'm so excited. All right. All right, well, let me head over here to this. And let me switch over to the
Yeah, and that's Steven's lovely
other
artwork
computer.
right there. That's the Tyre River, the Great Barren Desert. You can
Yep.
see all that stuff.
Yep,
It's
yep, yep.
unfortunately he passed away. So we've been told this was actually the very last piece of art, video game
Oh
artwork
wow.
that he had done. He passed away from ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease.
Wow.
I believe at the early last year, perhaps, which is a shame. He was an excellent professional. I fanboyed for probably 20 minutes straight when I first got on the call with him. I was like, you made this and this and this. And oh yeah, we want you to do Beyond Shadowgate, but you did this and that. But yeah, wonderful man, great to chat with. Really enjoyed our time, and the whole team felt that way.
Now it is sad, but I mean that is what a legacy though, to be able to have that connection, from the old to the new with the
Yeah.
same person. That's pretty, what a, as Emily says, what a beautiful last piece. That's good stuff. All right, well, this download is not related to that, is it? No. Black Geyser, good game, but not worth playing today. There we go. Okay, so we're gonna play this now. When I when we last left our hero, by which I mean myself, I reached this stage where I was a little bit, I'm just slightly stuck, not completely stuck, just slightly stuck.
Don't worry
Um,
about it.
I just was, like, just a bit,
It's okay.
thrown
I
off.
know a guy. Don't worry.
Yeah, I
We'll
will. I was
do
gonna
this.
say.
Yeah.
Because and I loved this. I have to say, I really enjoyed this whole section, because I loved the sort of playing back and forth with the sun and moon.
Yep.
Just very, very cool stuff. And I should say that I did not actually. I knew of them, but I did not play Uninvited or Deja Vu back in the day. My contact was Shadowgate. So.
Yeah.
When I saw this stuff, I was kind of like, this is cool, but I didn't have a point of reference to that. So thanks for joining us, other Rick Fox. Don't be a stranger. Stop by again. We hope to do more things of this nature. Okay, so, and now I don't even remember what exactly it was that I was not doing correctly.
Well, we can move you through some stuff. A quick pointer about this. This mansion segment is probably one of my favorite in the game. I know the team really, really adores it, and this is 100% original to our team. So this mansion is not in the original design documents.
Okay.
So this is all brand new. This is actually, it's big enough to be its own little Shadowgate game in and of itself.
Oh, very cool. I just realized that it'd be nice if they could actually see you while you're talking. Give me 1 second. I switched scenes. Let me just move you over here, and then I'll have my own built-in hint guide, chat. See? This is what it's about. Listen, it's not the fame and the glory. What it really is being able to get people who actually made the game, and that's how we do that. Okay, let's see. There's that. Yeah, all right, and I'll have this captured in just a minute. There we go. Almost. Okay. And there we are. Right, much better. Now you can actually see. In fact, I'll make it even a little more slick. He said doing it on the fly. Okay, nope. I don't want it to cover. I want it to go below. There we go. And then we go like that. And then we go like this. And nope, don't move. You stay. go like this. Okay, good. And that should be about right. Lovely. Okay. Now we're cooking with gas. Right. Okay. So, as we were all saying, and by all of us I mean me. Okay. So you said so. Right. So you can move through this. So this was. So I guess the point of what you're saying there is that this was a little larger, maybe even, or more involved than you had anticipated.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, the original transition for this was Dell hops onto. So we cut the forest segment down, which was literally just paths that branched into nowhere. Just imagine a giant grid of dead space in a forest.
Okay.
We cut that way down to be how it was. He reaches that riverboat. You jump onto the river, and you're supposed to exit at a specific dock. And it was just a plain black text only whatever, and you got to get off at the right dock, and that wasn't very fun. So we generated the whole crash and everything, and then the design went, there were 2 to 3 screens of just generic ruins, nothing special about them, and then
Okay.
you're in the desert, and the desert was, I believe, an 8x8 grid that you had to traverse and follow the right path through, and then you're at the mountain. We didn't like that. So Jeff, the artist, came up with the idea of throwing something in there. I was like, I really want to make something out of these ruins. That's really cool. I want it to be spooky. Let's have some ghosts. He was like, why don't we do a mansion? And as I discussed, I'm a fan of the Resident Evil series.
Yes.
And I was like, he was going to twist my arm to make a spooky mansion, so let's do it.
Yes. You had a couple of the freeze frame ghosts from referencing other games as well.
Yeah, that's actually that. Yeah, I've got things to say about those ghosts. That's gonna be real fun. So we built this whole mansion, and the whole team got really excited about this. So this is something we came up that was 100% original to us. This wasn't a Dave Marsh thing, and he loved it when we showed it to him. And then when we added it all up, I think there's 26 or something rooms, and it is yeah. So it's about the size of, I think, the original Uninvited. So
Very
yeah,
cool.
yeah, this was a fun area to design. I'm very happy with how it went.
I'm actually, I need to remember to ask you at the end of this about, given that you were successful in doing all that, would you like to do an expanded mansion? Like, I know you said you have other games to think about, but again, I asked you a little bit about this before, but just, is there more coming that has this vibe? I think Rick Fox was talking about Shadowgate 3. Like, you don't have to do that if you don't want to, but something that's in the vibe of this, because it seems like there's even more room to maneuver. There's other stuff to do based on what you've done so far. So I need to remember to ask you that at the end, but I won't
Yeah,
ask you
of
that
course.
right now. Okay, so now I'm starting to remember what it was that I was stuck with. So I felt like I had gone through, I did a bunch of stuff. I'm like, awesome. And then it was like, but I still can't quite leave because I haven't banished everybody yet. I have all the stuff that I need to banish. And there's one place that I can't seem to get into, which is this pantry.
Correct.
And I think it was at this, nope, not there. I think it was at this stage that I was kind of like, I don't really know here what I'm doing. Although now I wonder if can I use the salt sack on the tentacle thing? No. Okay. Just a tentacle reference. But see, I'm suspicious because I'm always like, is it always just a reference, or is there something I could use that for? And I'm just not.
Yeah, that is just a reference. That was one of the ones, the brothers. I played, I think, part of Day of the Tentacle. I never played Maniac Mansion really, and Jason and Jeff really liked the game, and Jeff just drew a tentacle, and Jason was like, "Awesome, we're gonna put it in. We're gonna put it in the crack in the floor," and I was like, "Okay, fellas, you say so. All right, let's do it." So that one is just a reference. That may be the only non-Shadowgate related reference we have in the game. And so, yeah, that one, don't worry about that anymore.
Oh, okay. For a minute, I was like, I got it, and then I don't got it.
No, it's okay. That was purposefully. There's really only a handful of puzzles, I think, maybe 3 or so, where it's a little obscure, I would say, to my standards at least, for a puzzle game. Other people I've seen breezed right through it, no problem. The way this mansion is set up is to put the player on a crossroads and, again, feel the impact of what they've done. And it all comes together later on. But this is one of the pivotal points in the game. Trying to say it without giving much
Yeah,
away.
that's fine. I mean, I
Yeah.
know that the demon. I know that the I'm supposed to summon the ghost and then I can banish him completely, but I'm missing one of the materials to do that, and I'm assuming I can find that in the pantry, and so I need to figure out how to get the pantry open. That's my mind's. That's what I'm imagining.
Yeah, well, let's see what you've got and what you're working with so far. I mean, so you've done a wonderful job. You got the salt, you've read that stuff, you've got the sun coin moon, yeah, you got that. You found the red gems, which is what the salt is all about.
Yep.
That's the Resident Evil
Yep. Yep.
reference right
Yep.
there. You know,
Yep.
so I was very excited to put that in. Um, the same thing with the suit of armor. And if you notice, the mansion's purple, suit of armor has a tuft of hair that's purple.
Also
the sheep
purple.
is
Yeah.
purple, like those things.
Can I ask before you just go on? Just because this just struck me. Do you have an accessibility setting for color blindness? Was that a concern or?
So yeah, we actually did. We talked about that during development, and there were constraints to what we could and couldn't do.
Right, I was wondering about
For
that.
instance, the ruby shard in the dead forest was a little tough for some folks to see.
Yep.
So that red color with all those red flowers.
Mhm.
So that's when we got the idea of adding the red glowing shading around it too, just to make it a little bit more obvious.
Mm-hmm.
So we did discuss that. We
Oh.
did try to make it better. That's also accessibility is why we added the ability to shut the 10-second timer off for the Reaper gaze. Why we could make that infinite.
This is a good. Sorry, while I was talking to you, this is a good.
This is an awesome
This
death.
is an awesome death that I completely
Yeah.
forgot about because I was like, I
Yeah.
could just go down there. So I plummeted to my death while we were talking. Right. Never mind. On you
The
go.
programmer actually snuck that one in on me. So occasionally there's a few spots in the game where the programmer put something in and he wrote the text for it and everything. So one day I did the same thing you did and I was like, I definitely don't remember that. But that is awesome. So
really funny.
again, the team, it was all of us working together and that's what made it so special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Yeah, one of the things I like too is that for most of this, not all of it, but most of it, you kind of get the sense like I got what I needed from the area now. Not always, and I was very conscious of what you said about make sure that you think about like look at everything in your inventory. So I've been like, sort of obsessively doing that. But I like the fact that, for instance, we've done that. We found the Reaper. We pulled a lever. Like we did that now. Like that's done, and I don't have to worry about that again.
Yep.
And it cuts down a little bit on remember the 65th needle on the 35th, whatever. Like, which just is not.
Well, go back for 1 second.
Okay.
So I'll say go into that crusher room because there's something for you in there.
Okay.
The room with the steel walls.
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So there's something for you in here.
Oh, there is. I got the
This one
shield
trips-
already, but
Yep. This one trips people up just a little bit. So that's my hint for you. You need something in here.
oh, okay.
I'm trying to think about it.
Oh, the block right there.
Oh yeah.
You
that's
hook
the
your
one.
fingers around the tile slide in a shallow hole. Oh, a handle. Right, that's the handle for the thing.
Yeah, because every
thing.
Resident Evil has a crank. right?
Yeah,
There's a crank in
yeah.
this.
That
So-
I did not even notice that block because that's wow. Okay, good stuff. Well, that helps. I forgot that I needed that crank actually.
Yeah, so if you go back, you'll immediately know right where to use it. And
Yeah.
that was the other thing that we did. Adventure games, sometimes you'll get something early and you use it way later, and that's just obnoxious to me as a player. So that's why I really tried to keep things localized.
Yeah, that's I just need to remember. Is it there? No, I'm trying
You've
to
got the
remember.
mini map too on
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
not
that's
sure
right.
what it's bound to, but yeah, you can always
Space,
reference the Metroid inspired mini map.
Yes, I love. Oh man, Metroid. Another. Could talk about that all day too. Love Metroid.
Some of the best design, Super Metroid is phenomenal. The way that it leads the player through the environment,
Yes.
and then the music to it and everything is
Oh,
just
man.
fantastic.
Yeah, all of the Metroid games, and oddly, Metroid Prime handles that well. Another game that did that recently, a game of the year for me a couple years ago, was Metroid Dread, which I think beautifully captures, again, the essence of what Metroid really is. Does beautifully. Okay, so there's this. I just need to find where the. Okay, good. This is it. Yeah, and then it was here. Right. All right. So I won't be able to use this. I mean, I can put it in. Okay, it fits perfectly right. Okay,
Yep.
but if I use that,
So
Oh,
that
interesting.
the lab equipment is actually here's an example of something I would do on occasion. We were trying to come up with what this labware would look like. And again, background as a scientist, so I got all excited about building a chemistry set. The reference that I gave the pixel artist was from the movie, I believe it's The Sword and the Stone,
Okay,
uh,
yeah,
the old Disney film and everything.
sure.
So if you go and you look at Merlin, I think his name is Merlin, you go and you look at his lab, you can actually see glassware that looks kind of like that.
I see.
That's one reference.
That's very cool. Okay. I'm a little worried that I may have missed an element, but we'll see.
No, so that was supposed to open. That was supposed to be a drawer, and we just couldn't get it to look right. So we just closed that off. That's why it
Oh,
looks like something you could open.
see, that's the reason I didn't chat. Just so you know, as a professional gamer here, the reason I did not open the metal thing was because this drawer had taught me that I should not look. It wasn't because I completely missed it the first time. That wasn't the reason. It was other reasons, like that. Okay, so now what I have to do is, let's see. I have to. Oh wait, no. There's a spell. I remember. So we use the Edux Spiritus.
Yep.
There was no response. What do you mean there's no response? Oh, that's because I'm trying to speak to it. Look, I'm trying to speak
By the
to
way,
it.
you can look at yourself occasionally, and I think there's three different points where it changes over the
Oh,
course
really?
of the game. So it progresses. So at first it says something Dell you would expect him to say, like you're a handsome and charming Fenling or something like that.
Now I'm tired but determined, Fenling. I see.
Yeah, exactly.
Ah,
So there were
that's
little
cool.
things like that.
That's very cool. All right, we're using this now. Ah ha ha! Stealing your nerves, you say the words of spiritus, wait for something to happen. A familiar wave of icy air hits your body. You shiver from cold and fright as the phantom appears before you. Well, guess what, phantom? I'm your
Oh, did
huckleberry.
you look at the purifier?
I did look at it. It said it was a foul brown liquid.
Oh, okay, that might have been. There's a uninvited reference
Oh,
to it that
you think
players
of
will
things to
like.
name your concoction. You could choose no ghost. Maybe you'll think of a better name later. That's funny.
No Ghost is what you used in Uninvited to get rid of the Southern
Oh,
Belle. I was trying to shoehorn. Yeah.
see, that reference is because I didn't play it at the time, so
Yep.
that reference is lost on me. Okay, you've been hit by it? Yes. So I was looking for another liquid, and in fact, I was just looking for a handle, is what I should have been looking for.
Yep.
Gathering your courage, you scream, "Begone, monster," and throw the foul-smelling liquid at the phantom. Its form begins to dissolve and lets out a horrifying shriek that leaves your ears ringing and your eyes watering. Taking a deep breath, you look around the room. A sense of unease fills the air. The remains of the phantom radiate a strange energy. Can I take them? I cannot take it. Can I open it? It did not open. Can I use it? I cannot. Can I banish it with something cool? It's very eerie that there's no music.
Isn't it though?
Okay. Just gonna leave now. Can I take that? Take that? Take that? This is making me real nervous.
I love it. I'm really happy to hear that.
Okay. No, I've been there. I'm gonna go in here. Oh God, I keep going back to the same damn place. I'm gonna go out here, and then I'm going to find this thing that I can't do anything with. And so that's not it. I'm going to go to the pantry, and the door is automatically going to be open because that's how things work in the world. God bless America. Where the frick is the kitchen? I think it's back one step. Yeah, okay. Pantry! Open! Oh, actually, wait. I know what I'm doing. Okay, I'm still nervous, to be clear, but what I have to go do is talk to the imp, because the imp is going to tell me, oh, thanks for doing that.
Mhm.
Let me take that. Yep. Okay, move up this
And to
way.
be fair, it's been a little while since you played too.
It has been a little while. I appreciate you helping me out with the that's why you're not remembering something clear.
I mean, no, that's one thing I would have liked to have gotten in is like a quest log to really orient the player again.
like
Just
the
didn't have
story
time.
so far. Oh no, I didn't save the imp. What? Oh. Well, actually, the imp was annoying, but still, The imp's mangled body is cold, and blood is pooled in vivid splotches on its skin as if it's been dead for some time. You feel responsible for its death, that this outcome is entirely your fault. If only you had done things differently. Well, I mean,
Who would say such a horrible thing?
that's just
Seriously.
I mean, all right, I'm going to cast an awesome spell that will change this all. No? Okay. I'm going to give you this phantom has robbed this creature of its soul. There is no memory for you to witness. The thought fills you with fear. I I'm just okay. There's my stuff. Finally, you say as you take your things, you know more hardship is coming, but you feel good to be on your way. As you lift your bag, your head begins to pound violently. The nape of your neck tingles. You hear sounds like gentle whispers from within your mind. You cannot make out the words. I'm out of here, you mumble as you turn to leave. You don't care anymore. You never want to see this place again. Pantry key. All righty.
There you go.
I feel bad for this imp, though. Okay, I guess I can ask you, is it true that I could have done this faster and saved the imp?
Not faster. It's nothing to do with time. But the game is... Shadowgate had a ton of replayability, and this one does too.
Okay.
So don't worry about it. Yeah, it's got nothing to do with the speed with which you do things.
Okay.
You'll understand.
I see. I mein, in fairness, he did take my stuff to begin with. I mean,
People love the imp. I was surprised. I thought everybody was gonna hate him, but a lot of people really love him.
Until you brutally obliterated him. I mean, like that was
Hey, I was here this whole time. You had your eyes on me the whole time. I didn't do anything. I've been sitting here.
You peer at the jar and notice a single I always do that as a DM, right? Where I'm always like, I'm just the messenger. Like, I don't, notice a single floating eye looking back. You say, recoiling from the specimen. Well, obviously we're taking that. What? Can it be taken? All right, can I open it? I cannot open it. Can I hit it? That only hurt your hand. Okay. All right, well, what is this thing? Light reflects dimly off of this yellow stone. Despite the color, it's identical to the red stone you used on the portal. Well, I have a feeling we're going to need that. Gives you a strange sense of deja vu. Aha. I see what you did there.
Oh, there you go.
P.I. stone. Clever. Clever. Reminds you of the red stone that activated the portal. Can't take the plates. Can't take the thing. All right. I'm going to speak to the eye. No. I guess I can't take this. But I'm sitting there going like, All right, 59%. All right, let me move off of here. All right, so now I move out of here. Having defeated the phantom, the front door is open. You are free to leave. All right, and then we're back out here. Step out of the mansion into the cool night air. So much time has passed since you began chasing Belazar. An unsettling feeling washes over you. You do not have long until his evil scheme comes to fruition. You must hurry. You must hurry now. And we have the Baron. Oh, yes, and then we have... Right. So, if I go all the way down here, and I put this... Yep. Thrumming noise rises from the structure. The space in the center of the machine begins to waver and distort as a portal appears out of thin air. And now we are in the Deja Vu universe. Wild. So yeah. I do want to ask something here. I love the way this, as I said, coheres together. However, because you're basically making these call-outs to vastly different game settings, you've already talked a little bit about how you had to think about how do I do that in 1940s Chicago, etc. Was there a through line that you and the team used to kind of hold this together? I mean, I guess the art, because it's the same artist, maybe the music, but I'm wondering if there was either a thematic through line or something that didn't make it just feel like, here's a section bolted on by Kickstarter backers, which is in fact sort of what happened. How did you maintain kind of thematic consistency, I guess is the question with this.
Yeah, that was tough. So the way that we approached it, because we already had the game, all laid out by the time we hit the Kickstarter, and we didn't really know how it was going to perform. We figured we were going to maybe make 25,000 for it.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so we had no idea. So when it came time to this, I had to sit down and I kind of kept punting it off down the road as I was building out the rest of the areas. And luckily, when I knew what the end game was going to look like, it kind of allowed me to work backward
Okay.
and figure it out from there. Um, the way that I looked at it thematically, though, is Dell starts as this obnoxious, arrogant Fenling, and he's on a journey, and he's a reluctant hero, and this is just one more step he's got to get through. And he's always kind of a stranger. He's always kind of an outcast wherever he goes because he's just, it's atypical. And this is just one more step for him to go. So how would he approach just another, set of problems and go through, and what would it do to him afterward?
Right, right.
This one, because it's so different, it invokes a little bit more of that goofy early Shadowgate deja vu vibe. So the writing is a little bit goofier here. It's a little bit more on the nose and a little bit, kind of more of that style. Just because this was supposed to be announced, so this was supposed to be fun. This is for the people that wanted to spend the money to see it. So we're gonna have a good old time with it. We know why we're here.
This is the fan service section, so to speak.
Effectively.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But we do some fun stuff with it too. You'll see. Yeah.
And this is shorter, right, than the, I'm just curious, than the other mansion. So just to be clear, so we had the uninvited reference, but really the mansion was, I mean, it's uninvited inspired, but it's mostly you is what you're saying, like, and your team in the new context, right? Whereas this is more, I understand you did all of that, but I'm saying this is more of a direct reference, whereas the other one was more expanded. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Well said. The most uninvited thing about the mansion that you just completed is if you look on the Macintosh box for the uninvited game, the silhouette of the mansion is that box.
I see.
Is the biggest thing.
Very neat. I mean, I think that's, by the way, I think that's a good sign for future game titles that you'd want to build, that you did this whole game within a game that was, a credible, like, self-contained section that didn't have to rely on looking back to the old standards, So I think that's a good sign for the team's creative, potential in the future. Not that you need me to tell you that, but
no, I appreciate it. I mean, we got the seal of approval from Dave. So Dave Marsh called up Carl Roloffs, who is the other creator of Shadowgate.
Mm-hmm.
They were kind of co-creators, best friends. And I was on the call when he did it, and he was like, "Hey, Carl, you're never gonna guess. They put uninvited in Beyond Shadowgate. They did it really well. You gotta play it." So that when we hit that, we were like, "We nailed it. We're good."
You've officially arrived. Could my cats please stop beating the hell out of each other while I'm trying to do this? Hey, to the two of you, this is ridiculous. They are best friends, and they actually are never actually hurting each other, but I keep hearing this yowling in the background. I'm always like, is anyone killing each other? Because I can't. No, they're not. They're not killing each other. All right, good. All right, well, let's just do a couple of minutes of this, and then I will take questions from the crew, and then we'll let Christian go with thanks. All right, you stagger forward, head spinning like you're recovering from a stupor. No, it's got to be. You stagger forward, your head spinning like you're recovering from a stupor after a week-long festival in Windermere. You have no idea where you are or why you're here, but at least you remember your name. Time to go, Dell, you mumble. You look around. The portal's nowhere to be found. You sigh heavily, wondering what to do until the wisp begins speaking. I'd forgotten about the wisp, that lighted... Okay. More good news and bad news, Dell. Bad news first this time. We've entered this world nowhere near a portal. The good news is that the key to use the portal is in this building. We could figure out how to get to the portal later. First, let's find that key. I have to admit also I'm nervous that something is going to eventually happen to the wisp, and I'm going to be like, man, the poor wisp, because we've already seen the wisp use part of its energy, and I'm like, that would be too bad.
Something bad happening, chance in a million.
I mean,
Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Plain wooden door with an out of order sign. You see a dried stain on the floor. It's an image of a man wearing a pinstripe suit with a snake on the front. He's holding a leather glove and a white ball. Plaque at the base of the image says, starting pitcher K. Roloffs, player number 36. There's a note written on the image, to Joe, thanks for the free grub. It was edible, KR. It's an image of several people over in the same uniform with the snake emblem. Yeah, talk to me about it.
Yeah, this little area, I actually went back and found the scripts for Deja Vu and Uninvited, all the text from the game. So if you notice the change in the style, it's referencing that. So you start Deja Vu, you wake up in a bathroom, you have no memory. It says you feel like you woke up from a week-long stupor in Vegas or something like that.
Right.
So the style is specifically mimicking those games. I put way too much time on that. I just again, when you have a super fan do something, this is
No,
what
it's
happens.
that's what it's about. I know. That's why I want you to get paid for all of it. Is the key. They must all be soldiers from the same kingdom, fighting for their snake lords. Case with a glass door is mounted on the wall. That's it. There's an indent as if it's meant to hold something. It appears to be the shape of a sword. I think I may be fresh out of a sword. I have a dagger. They do not have a sword. All right, so, and I suppose can't open this. Door won't budge. You understand now what out of order means. Could take that sign? No. Take the picture? No. Take the indented thing that I obviously have to put something into? No, okay. Right, okay. Approaching the glass door, you look upon a vast city unlike any you've seen, filled with humans dressed in unfamiliar clothing. I'll need to blend in, you say. You see some men out front. You overhear their conversation. We got the door covered, and Frankie's inside looking for the money, boss. There's no way Ace is getting out alive. You realize you've accidentally stepped into the middle of something serious. This happens all the time, Chad. It's just another Thursday. You should stick to what you do best. Get what you need and make a silent escape. That's true. I will take whatever this is. No, I can't. And I'm going to look at it. There's a folder paper on the bar top. It's open to the sports column. It reads, "It's a big day for the local sports fans. All of the city's teams will be in action. The game times are: the Hounds play first at 1:30, the Serpents follow at 3:45, and the Gargoyles finish the night with a match at 8 o'clock. That sounds like a puzzle. Well, if you want to take a picture of it just to make sure that you're not missing out on a puzzle pattern, that would be delightful." Right, okay. Let's see. Great. You peer out the window into an entirely foreign scene. Unusual carriages speed past as people wearing strange garments march to and fro. Over on the side, Alec Baldwin starts chanting, "Oh, yes, the gun, yes." Even in this unusual place, you recognize all the familiar trappings of a bar down to the well-worn wooden floor. The thin glass door separates you from the outside world, a fact to which you do not currently object. And a sign on the door reads, "No customers allowed." Luckily, I'm not a customer, you think to yourself. Can I open this? You open the door. Great. Oh, God. The light rapidly fades as you descend the stairs. You can't see anything save a small chain hanging from the ceiling. Oh, what a feeling when a chain is in the ceiling. Okay. You reach overhead and give the chain a gentle pull. It clicks and light fills the room, revealing a small cellar. A self-lighting miniature lantern. How convenient. I'll be sure to remember that when I return to the Fens, you think. Also, hi, Sean Black. All right, let me just go through this, and then I will come back up, and then we'll take the Q&A. Dusty bottles. Okay. Tell me more. We got a dreary and damp cellar. The smell of alcohol is strong enough to burn your nostrils. Fair. A big barrel is set against the wall, the type of barrel used for storing wine. Okay. And I assume if I use this, turn the knob, prepare for a stream of wine to come pouring out. You were just about to bend down and drink from the tap when you notice that a steady flow of water comes streaming out. Watered down wine, what a shame. As the last of the water drips out, you notice that the picture has been conveniently cleaned, really. It's an image of a man wearing an odd helmet with a stone monster painted on it. He's holding a brown leather ball. A plaque at the base of the image says, "Wide receiver, C. Geizat, player number 72. There's something written on the image. "Joe, you gotta hire a painter and fix the place up. Geizat." Can I take that painting? Oh. I wonder if I'm going to need to remember that. I probably am going to need to remember that. All right. Wide receiver. That's going to be a thing. It's going to be I can already tell. It's going to be a thing. Take your lantern and make it happen. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Right. Let's move out of here. Great. And oh boy. You slowly creep up the stairs as the figure of a man comes into view. As he works, you hear scraping metal sounds. As an experienced thief but a miserable lockpicker, you recognize the sounds of a stubborn lock when you hear one. Realizing it's only the two of you in this building, you begin thinking of a way to subdue the intruder before he sees you. I'm not getting the Reaper yet. Read the name on the faded poster. It says Puff McMuffin. Okay. Photo of large padded gloves. You aren't quite sure what they're used for. There used to be a... something must have hung here until recently. Okay. And large does not capture the imposing size of this man. Given his mass, you wonder why he doesn't break the door down. Okay, hitting him is obviously not going to work. So, I could... Well, it said gold dagger is not going to do anything to him. Heavy coat. Oh. I feel a little bad doing this, but... Zap! Oh no! Large man turns around and then a single word draws a metal object from under his coat. Crack, crack, crack! The cacophonous noise echoes in your ears as your body drops to the floor. You feel warm liquid seeping from your chest and pooling under your back as your vision fades to black. Welcome to Chicago! Oh, nice! And we got the skull with the gun. With your demise, the land of Cal Torlin fell to ruin. I want to point out that that was a headshot, so there should not have been given the option. Okay, so I can't do that. What is this imp charm? Something written on the back. You bring the charm close to your eyes and speak the words in the tiny inscription. When the dead hold a secret, these words will show you their final moments. After reading the inscription, the charm crumbles in your hand. Oh, I got a new spell. Decidia Mort. Okay. All right.
Yeah, so Dave Marsh is actually from the Chicago area. Fan of the Cubs and all that stuff. So
Right.
that's where I think Deja Vu is his favorite game of the bunch too. So ran it by him for authenticity.
That's really cool. Okay, so... Right, I already took a picture of that. Okay, so... Whoops. Oh, no, I already did that. That's what I wanted to do, is back up a step. Okay. So... Can I use the pole on this thing? No. Can I take... No. Can I open? Interesting. Let's see. I don't see a dead guy yet. Actually, look at the bread. Still freshly baked. I was hoping one of these was going to be hard enough that I could just, you know. And the gold dagger is too soft to be effective. I don't know about this. I'm looking for anything that makes reference to a lot of weight. Like this is... It's a pearl, yeah. Can I use an empty sack on a guy? Alright, if I go up here, and I go up here, and I use an empty sack...
You could try.
Ha-ha! Oh, okay, it didn't work. Man. Listen, my empty sack protects me against bullets. That's... Yeah, the Reaper gets gangster AF. Yeah, I mean, that's true. Okay, hang on. Is there another suspicious looking... There's got to be something going on with that basement area, or the... There's got to be something going on here that I'm missing. Why does that have wine dripping out of it? Can I take... Wait, what? That was a weight bearing...
So that's one of my top 3 deaths in the game. All of my favorite deaths are glass related. It just happened like that.
That was a weight
That's
bearing
number 2.
bottle. The rock collapses, crushing your body beneath it. Oh, wait. See, I don't drink, and this is why, chat, because, see, this is what happens.
Nothing but trouble. But you're on the right path, though. You get the right idea. Don't worry. You're going to figure it out.
I'm in the right area. All right.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Okay, wait. Look at that. A long wooden object. Can I take... Oh, that's the bat.
There you go.
All righty. Slender club is decent enough, quite solid. You're impressed with its quality. All right. So the thing is... I know I have to use... I want to use the baseball bat on the guy, but first... Oh, do I have to open that first? Okay. Open... Calling upon all your thievery skills, you gently slide the glass up and open the case. Well, that was easy. This case was clearly meant to hold something, and now all that's left is a barely legible note. It reads, Carl, we got a rat problem. I brought the bat downstairs to take care of the vermin, Dave. I'm gonna put this in here, but I'm wondering if the idea was, yeah, okay. So that was just to give me a clue that where to get the bat to subdue the guy. All right, guy. Suck it! Sneak behind the thief, raise the club over your shoulder, prepare to swing. His gruff voice mumbles, "Got it," as the lock clicks open. Seizing the chance, you swing the club, strike him in the head. Pow! How you like me now? The goon stumbles slightly and collapses down the hall. Realizing you handled the goon and the lock simultaneously, you drop the club and smile at a job well done. Well, you were unable to move. Oh, well, gotta open it. All right. Okay, and here we have the classic, yes, the office. Faded light brown coat. This is what the people of this world wear. It might be useful to help you blend in, yes. We'll take the faded coat. Maybe it'll help to look the part. Also, we have a image of a man wearing strange armor with a large dog painted on his chest. He's carrying a tall, curved stick. A plaque at the base of the image says, Teen Captain D. Marsh, player number 18, also known as Take This because it's a note. Did you ever think, by the way, of a journal system of like being able to have people keep notes in the game, or was that something? Because I know that wasn't part of the original, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, that would have been part of the log I was talking about earlier. Like, ideally, we would have put little things up like that. And some of the puzzles are randomized, so that would have helped them keep track. But then, as we talked about it, that was a nice to have towards the end, and we figure everybody's just going to take a picture with their phone anyway. Or have a notepad.
Okay, so if I take the notepad, speak of the devil, use the phone. Okay, take the phone. Look at the phone. You have no idea what this object is, but makes a rather off-putting sound when you lift part of it up. Best to leave it alone. All right, and then they have this button. Push the button with your thumb and it gives in. You hear a lock release across the room. Outstanding. Which means if I open this and move here, the first thing you notice in this office is the stale air permeating the room. Something about it puts you on edge. The desk looks newer than the chair, and the carpet underneath it is covered in faded stains. Okay. Frame posters hanging askew on the wall. The fact that it's not level is bothersome to you, which is why we take it. Unable to tolerate the unlevel poster any longer, you pull it from the wall, revealing a hidden safe. Also, can I use the blinds? Pull the string next to the window. This shade quickly rises. Convenient, you say, with some surprise. Okay, so now we look at the safe. Wall-mounted safe. All right, well, can I open, look, move there? So you head towards the window, the wisp chimes in. Dell, I can sense more items you'll need in this building. There's no getting home without them. Keep searching. All right, listen, Wisp. I'm just trying to get to the close to the safe. I've done that a million times. Move to the safe. Ah, there we go.
Yeah,
okay.
This is an instance of it going like where the original game kind of got in the way of the convention, but that was how you did it in the original Deja Vu too.
Mm-hmm.
So
I got you. So that, yeah. Was there, and I actually should ask, was there anything where Dave was like, you have to do this? Like, I know you didn't do it much, but was there anything where it was like, you have to get this in, or this thing has to be there? Did you?
I'm trying to think. There were a couple of instances where he was really glad to see something. Like, remember the calling somebody like you swing the sling above your head and you throw it at the Minotaur and it does the Philistine.
I love that. Yeah.
He laughed out loud to that one. I remember he really enjoyed that. Not for this, but on other stuff, ideas we've been toying with. He's like, this is the hill I'll die on. And maybe when we get that out there, I can describe some of it, because he wants to die on this hill. And I don't know how I'm going to make him, change his mind about it. So we'll figure it out later on. But no, by and large, he's been very good about it and very supportive. And he says this is the best Shadowgate game that's ever been made.
Wow.
Which is high praise from him. He does he's got a high bar of quality for himself. He's a very, very hard worker. So he was mostly satisfied, and that's how we knew we made, at the very least for Shadowgate fans, that's how we knew we made a game that was going to make people happy.
That's very cool. Yeah, I mean, that's got to be wild to just be like, oh, so it's working then, if he likes it. Okay, so I think I may have enough to just solve this puzzle. I think, almost. So, the idea is I have to figure who's doing what. So, we have Puff McMuffin. Oh, actually, wait, can I take any of these? Okay, so if I move backwards, right. So I go down to this. I look at this. No, I know about that. Never mind. I know about that. Right, so if I move forward and I look at that. Okay, stone monster painted on it. And the stone monster is going to be the gargoyle. So he's going to be the last number in the combination. Which means 72 is the last number, chat, in the combination. Okay, so number 72 is the last number. That means the second number would be... let's see, that's the serpent. And the serpents are the second number. So 36. So it's... So 3672. So something 3672. Okay, 3672. And then the team captain. So 183672. Let me see if I'm right. 183672. 18. All right. 18. Nope. Darn it. 183670. Let's go. And it opens. Hey! All right. And there's another one of those. It's just your optimism. You swear you can see glimpses of Cal Torlin reflecting in it. You see a familiar sight. This is clearly a portal key. You thought growing up in the 70s days there'd be a lot more quicksand and hidden safes in life. I'm a bit disappointed. Yeah, maybe safer, though, in fairness, than what would have been the case otherwise. Impressed by the craftsmanship of this wall-mounted safe. They must have some talented blacksmiths in this world. Okay, they've got that. Are these banknotes? Pile of green paper in the safe. If this is locked up, it must be important, you muse to yourself. All right, so we take that. All right, so we move out of here. Okay, I want to make sure that I didn't actually miss something. All right, good. So I'm going to move out of here. I'm going to move several footsteps into the next room. A gruff voice speaks up. We got Ace Trap, boys. Get in there and let's rattle him. Don't stop till he's full of lead. The wisp chimes in. Sounds like they mean business, Del. You have everything you need. Time to get out of here. Yep. Way ahead of you.
So the speedrunners, actually, this is one of the banes of their running, because that's a randomized puzzle. So it's, the same order and logic to solve it, but the numbers show up differently.
Oh, really?
So,
interesting.
high, low, and then this one. And so the world records they get the high-low game on the first try, and they have very low numbers in this puzzle.
I see. It's funny. I don't know if you've watched some of the Lobos Jr. playthrough of this. So there was, because after I played ahead that I wasn't going to get spoiled, I was interested, so I watched a little bit of his. And, the high-low thing, he was stuck there for, 20 minutes, and I think I solved it, the second time. And I was like, I wasn't thinking of it as, I have some super skill. It was just sort of random, I was like...
It happens. That's why it's lucky it's in, the first 7 minutes of the game. But no, because we changed the balance on that multiple times, and I kept telling the programmer, I was like, it takes me forever to do it. He was like, it's fine. That's how it's supposed to be. And so one day it took me 10 minutes to do it. And I was like, I'm going to record this damn thing, and I'm going to show it to him that it's taken me 10 minutes to do it.
Right.
And I got it in 35 seconds. And I was like, well, damn.
He's like, see, just as intended. Yeah. Here you go. I'm playing Beyond Shadowgate. I'm interviewing the developer. You step onto the platform, a cold wind whips past you. It is a windy city. All right. So this is a good time chat now because Chris has been very, very generous with his time. But this is a good time to ask your questions. So, chat, do you have questions for Christian Moseley, who is the writer, designer, one of the developers of Beyond Shadowgate? Now is the time to ask. If you've ever been like, I want to know all the secrets. How do I get multiple degrees and then eventually end up making a sequel to a classic game of all time? How do I do these things? Now is the time. So please drop questions in chat, and I will forward them as we go. And we'll go for another 5-10 minutes or so, and then we'll And I kept Christian longer than I told him I would, but I'm grateful that he's willing to stick a little bit longer. Steps leads to a passage. So now's the time, chat. Get your questions in. So Tim Coolish asks, where did the idea for the Grim Reaper come from? That's the original game, I assume. Was there any adjustment, though, in the Grim Reaper, besides what you just showed with the gun, which is very funny? Did you think at all about any changes in the design of the Reaper? Because it's not identical, obviously. So
Yeah, so the Reaper, that was one of the first pieces of art that Jeff, the pixel artist, gave us, if I remember correctly, was the new Reaper that you see throughout the main part of the adventure. I just wanted it to be spookier. I was like, the original one gave a bunch of kids nightmares, so let's do even better this time. And he came up with that. We don't have many animations in this game, but the fact that it is animated also gives you the idea of how important it is. It really is the icon for the series, you know? So yeah, that's how this one came about. The idea for the Grim Reaper in the original game, I never asked Dave that, but I am really curious now. He got a lot of inspiration from the early Dungeons and Dragons books and images.
Yep.
And his original Shadowgate design document is literally a spiral notebook, and it's awesome to see. It's just got his writing and Carl's writing in there, and their handwriting's awful, and then the ink is faded. But it's super cool to see, and I don't remember seeing a mention of the Reaper in that either. But I'll ask him, and if I figure that out, I'll make a post about it.
Yeah, I was curious. That's interesting. Yeah, for sure. All right, good one, Tim. Other questions, folks, either on YouTube or here on Twitch. Other questions for Christian. We have a cat down here, so we have to be careful about how we manage things. Appears to be a tin can. It's been crushed and sits precariously on the edge of the walkway. I'm going to take that tin can. Oh no, it tipped over into the water. A ferocious sewer alligator pops up from the water. Alligator. Achievement unlocked. Killed by the sewer gator. It looks hungry. Crunch. It clamps its jaws on your legs and twirls around, snapping your bones in several places. It drags you down into the sewer water, tearing more chunks of your flesh to pieces before it finishes you off. I like that while it's doing that, the cat pays zero attention. Like the cat's just like, you know.
I don't think it was supposed to be like that initially, and then we thought it was so funny that we just decided to leave it like that because it's such a good image. And that sewer gator is in the original Deja Vu too. So yeah, that's one of the iconic characters from that. It's just randomly in the sewer. I've only been in Chicago one time. I don't know about their sewer problem. But
yeah, I same. I've been to Chicago once, but I don't remember. Once I think. But yeah, don't know about the alligators, but that was really funny. So, okay, Emily asks, want to say this has been absolutely delightful. If you get better questions, please answer them. But do you have a sense if the barmaid was actually someone Dave knew? Did that influence how you interacted with her? It seems specific, and I can't figure out if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Yes, I thought the barmaid was cute, but this is a strictly academic question, she clarifies.
The barmaid is Dave's wife.
Dave's wife, see?
Dave's wife. So they were dating at the time, and she thought it was cool. So he was, they were dating. So he put her in the game. And yeah, that's actually exactly what it is. And then the barmaid, because I asked, I was like, who's the barmaid? Because this is real specific. And he was like, yeah, that's my wife. And then there's also an image of the barmaid and it doesn't reference this in the text, but in the trade minister's bedroom is an image of the barmaid too. So there's some more subtext for you. You can figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You said girlfriend. This was a long-term thing. Yeah, well, so...
Girlfriend at the time.
At the time.
Probably, it became his wife later on. So... that's what he described as being so beautiful and so on and so forth, too.
This just reminded me, I was thinking about how it's fun. Like, obviously, you almost encourage people to get a bunch of these deaths because they can go back and then, like, redo it, which I think is great. But I was thinking about the original with the torch and the crazy music that down, now, is that sort of thing. You do a little bit of that, obviously, with the Reaper, but in a lot of ways, you make that aspect of things more forgiving, and you don't make people run through that. Now, as someone who, I admire Dark Souls players, but no thanks. Like, I'm not. That's not my bag. Was this simply a matter of people are going to get frustrated if they're just doing the same thing over and over again, or how did you make a decision? I guess maybe this is maybe already asked and answered, I suppose, but it struck me that did not really make its way over from the original game that much. Some of that element of you have to do this, if you miss it, then you're out, and you have to go all the way back from, wherever that was. So I'm curious about the decisions to make it a little more forgiving than the original, theoretically.
Yeah, so that's really two parts. So for making it more forgiving, like I said, the programmer with his industry experience, games just generally need to be not, they can't be NES hard anymore. People like Dark Souls, that's great, but not as much as people enjoy just being able to play through something is one part of it. So that's another thing. It was a sort of artificial difficulty too. It didn't really depend on the player's skill necessarily. Like in one way it didn't, but in another sense it didn't. So,
Okay.
and then the other thing was logically, you spend most of your time outside. In the first game, it kind of made sense because you're in all these dreary hallways. It's an unfamiliar place. If you're on stairs, you could legitimately fall and trip over something, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in this game, that doesn't work when you're in the forest in the middle of the day. A torch doesn't really work. So we tried to think of another mechanic that you could do that was similar. And then remember when you were making a joke about encumbrance or hunger
Yes,
or
yes.
something like that? It became that same thing. And we're like, nah, you know what? We'll give them isolated instances. We'll give them this Reaper thing. That'll kind of cut it. And then we'll see how it goes. And actually, I've read all the reviews of the game. And I see so many times, thank God you got rid of the torch. I hate those stupid torches. Like, and so many people are glad the torches are gone that it's just like, okay, there we
Yep,
go.
exactly. Also, I'm clearly in Chicago because I've just gotten kidnapped. Muffled
Yep.
gruff voice that says, "You's pretty dumb to come around again, Ace. The syndicate's had enough of you." Whatever you're being held in starts to rumble, and you sense you're moving for a very long time. You feel the shaking stop. Moments later, you hear a click and are met with a gust of frigid wind. You're lifted into the air and tossed onto the cold ground. The gruff voice speaks again. "The bosses like you, Ace, so they giving you options. You can freeze to death or drown in the lake. See ya, gumshoe." You hear a loud noise move away from you as you get to your feet and rip the cloth off your head to see a vast frozen tundra. You realize you're on a large lake. The wind scatters snow in all directions, quickly erasing your footsteps. Well, a lot of good this coat did me. I've been mistaken for this Mr. Gumshoe, whoever that is. You take off and discard the coat, not wanting any more cases of mistaken identity. Good news, though. I have a heavy coat. Wait, I immediately start sweating. What? This is frozen tundra. The heck?
No, trust me, you'll need it later.
All right.
Actually, I had a lot of fun writing the thugs in this. For whatever reason,
Oh,
I just really, like that thing about the syndicate and they've given you options, Gumshoe. I don't know, some reason it just came easier.
That's the best. Yeah, the general feel of Chicago. That's fun.
Yeah, and the rattling boys and filling with and all that stuff. I don't know. It's just
seriously.
Right. Of the other NPCs, I think the ones that I like the most are I think the weapon shopkeeper back in town is pretty cool. He was just fun to write for. I like that he's really goofy. Like he's got like a stoic, battle-hardened soldier, and then he just gives you a big kiss on your cheek or something. Like, he's kind of a goofy character. I'm trying to think of the other ones. Yeah, there's some that you'll meet later on that are fun too. But it was kind of fun to write that.
And it was also, I thought, the captain here, the captain who lost
captain?
the guard captain who lost the mine. The guys back at the mine. It was very poignant too, and they have those moments that are small, but then lead you to sort of think a little bit afterwards. Which was, you touched on your other question. Yeah, Tim was going to ask what your favorite NPC was, but you may have already touched on that. Did you have a favorite NPC like in the game, regardless of whether it's because of the way you wrote it or what?
Yeah, there was one actually that got cut, and it was a little old lady. So the of all the NPCs globally, that was probably the one that was my favorite. And originally in the town, there were a half a dozen more NPCs that would randomly appear in different spots.
Okay.
We had to cut it because it would increase the number of variables tremendously. But each of them had their own individual dialogue. And then if they appeared on the screen with another NPC, they had additional dialogue, and it was lore building.
Okay.
So this one little old lady, dressed up kind of like a sorceress, like robe over her head, all that kind of stuff. I liked her for two reasons. One, she would say things that were kind of they made sense, but they didn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
So that elegant kind of writing that's hard to get, where it's a little bit of psychosis, but if you think about it, kind of checks out, and it tells you warnings and a little bit more about the land. But then the other thing that I thought was fun was you can hit all the NPCs in town, and
Mm-hmm.
pretty much all of them will kill you except one. Hers was when she appeared in front of the fountain, you punch her, she catches your fist and flips you over onto the fountain, snapping your neck on the side of the fountain.
Oh
And it
wow.
was just such a brutal death that made zero sense for being a little old lady. And it was really good. And so we ended up scrapping her character, giving the monk that death if you try to punch him.
Okay.
But his original death is he was stationed inside of the temple's inner sanctum, where the statue of the One is. And if you try to punch him, the statue starts to glow and your heart explodes in your chest before you even get close to him because the power of the One is protecting. So there was like so much more that went into the town, literally probably another 20 or 30 pages of text that got
Wow.
cut. And it was awesome. But yeah, so that was the major character that got cut that I really liked. And then you'll see later on, I don't think you've seen him yet. But yeah, the guard captain scene is probably the one that I get complimented on the most.
Yeah.
And that one really seems to affect people. So I did enjoy that. And those are true stories, by the way, about the
Yeah, you
slip and
mentioned. I
slide
remember you
and all
mentioned that before. That's
Yeah.
very neat. Yeah.
So that's fun. Nobody ended up dying. That there's no horrible tragedy to it. But those are like actual real life stories of stupid things that happened.
Yeah. No, that's very cool. One sec. Okay. Okay, so hitting the ice did not work either. Okay, last questions, if any, chat. Throw any extras that you would like. I've gone in every direction and fallen through the ice. And I can't put on the heavy coat. I don't think using the Tempe's bag is going to, none of the spells work.
You haven't quite gone every direction.
I thought I did, he said doubtfully. Okay, that's not it. Okay.
These questions are great, by the way. I'm very appreciative of this. The love for this game is fantastic, and it's really nice to see people get excited about it.
How long did it take you to begin and finish the remake? I guess, yeah, that's true. Soup to nuts. How would you
Yeah.
put a year, months, years time frame on it?
Yeah, I think it was about a year and a half, give or take. Yeah, I think it was about that long. Luckily, like we had the original design going, we had kind of revamped it. Dave and I had been talking about it for a little while, and then we brought the other team on. And once we got the engine going and things together, we were able to really move through pretty quickly. But there was an awful lot of time spent on the game. Like I said, well over 1,000 hours at least
Oh, yeah.
on my part. And the other guys I know work just as hard too. So a lot of hours, very passionate project.
1.5 years with or without testing, Emily
Oh,
wants to know.
yeah, we were testing continuously. That's inclusive. So whenever there were new screens made, we started testing them immediately. And we would do that new chunk. And then at the end of the week or every couple weeks, we would run from the beginning of the game up to the new chunk. And then the game goes back and forth on itself too. So you'll retread some of the ground, and we had to check all that as we were building the new thing. So that helped us go to old areas as well and continuously check. And then Dave Marsh has a group of people that he's worked with for probably about 10 years now, maybe 15, that he uses to test all of his games. Some of them are like professional editors. We had a lady who was, a Harvard English grad that came in, did the reading, did the testing. Just a ragtag bunch of awesome people that we get in, and then the team does it and everything. So yeah, it was fun. That sped it up.
That's very cool. As a publisher, this feels impressive to me for all this interaction. Yeah, absolutely. And you're right about the sound, Sean Black. I just realized, chat, that it shows you right on the graphic. Like there's a break here, like there's a solid area here, so it's safe to go left here. I was just
can
sort of
look
like,
at it.
is it abstract random? You just go this way, then you go up that way, then you go left this way. You go up this way. There we are. Yep, that's cool. You breathe this
There's a
sigh.
text hook for it too. It's like you think, this ice is nothing but cracks, and then it's like, oh, you think this feels sturdy. That's actually an authentic skyline picture too.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, the Chicago, I think Museum of Industry or Science and Industry or something, but that's actually authentic.
Very cool. After the excitement wears off and you calm down, you quickly retrace your steps and write them down. With your notes in hand, you feel like a real detective. Surely you're better than whoever it was those goons were after, Mr. Chu something. Okay. Aha, that guy.
Yep.
You see the ragged face of a stranger. He's wearing a familiar coat and there are bruises across his knuckles. Yo. You say hello. Finger guns. The man responds. Hey, kid. You look lost and confused. Happened to me once. Name's Ace Harding. What's yours? You tell him your name. Dell, huh? Strange name for a short one like you. Tell you what. I run a boxing gym. Come by and I'll teach you something to help keep people off your case. You tell him about your trek across the ice. He responds, Goons? I took care of them. I've been at this for years. All right, kid, I like you, but it's windy out here. Get on inside. See you around, kid. Achievement unlocked. Deja Vu spoke with Ace. That's cool. Aha, and we have the money. There's a thin slot in this box. Maybe it has something to do with a strip of paper sticking out of the top. Use money. You slip the green notes in the slot and watch as the paper at the top grows. It says Receipt Museum of Science and Industry. You don't know what science and industry are, but you know what a receipt is. That's your ticket into this place. All right.
The thing you're not seeing too is the deaths. There's so many deaths that like your skill in playing, you're just going right by them. But like
I feel some vague sense of pride, even though I know part of the appeal is how many times people die. But I'm just like, I can't shut that part of my brain off, like trying to avoid the deaths,
Somebody, Cranky Templar, does all these awesome death compilation videos on YouTube of all these games that he plays through.
Yeah.
And I think his is like an hour and 15 minutes of straight runtime for Beyond Shadowgate.
Of just that, wow.
Just death after death. Of all the different permutations, I think this room has 3 in it. Like if you move straight forward, if you try to take the statue, if you do this stuff, like there's a few. So yeah, you're bypassing it.
How many, do you have a sense of how many deaths overall, different kinds of deaths there are in the game?
I think there's at least close to 10 achievements that are types of death.
Okay.
Like get electrocuted, drown, burn, jump out a window, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then for actual deaths in the game, honestly, I lost count, but it's got to be well over 100 because there's 250 rooms and several rooms have more than one way to die. Like I told you, all room but one in the castle, if you jump out of the window, you get a unique death.
Yeah.
And it's geographically accurate too for where you would be pointing if you were in the tower. That took way too much time. Again, you let a fan do something and they do stupid
That's wild, though. Yeah, I'm glad you're able to say it, though, because I would never have known that. Thank you so much, by the way, Darkside Prop, for the resub. I can't shut off the voices in my head either. Help me out. They're telling me to keep resubbing. I don't know how to stop them. That's not a voice you should ignore.
Just listen to it.
You should, yeah. Listen to the voice, resub repeatedly. Thank you, Rob. Appreciate it, man. So, yeah, I mean, I was going to say, like, that. It's wild that you put that level of detail into it, but I completely get it. And it is one of those things where I imagine it must be just like, do you know how much time I put into XYZ? Like, when people are, but that's it, right? People are likely to see just the tip of the iceberg. I suppose if they play it over and over and over again, they'll see everything, but they will miss part of these things just because the nature of the game is they have a different experience running through it and playing. And I should ask this, actually. This is an important question as we maybe start to wrap up here, which is just, is there a part of the game that had you to do it over again, you would have done in a different way? Or let's say in the director's cut version of this or whatever, are there things that you would do differently based upon the experience that you had making the game? Was there anything you would do in a different way?
That's a good question. Speaking to the quality of the product that we put out and how happy the team is, there's very little I would change personally. And I'm not saying that through like an artificial, like, hey, go buy this game, it's great. I mean that sincerely. We really made a game that we specifically would like to play.
Okay.
And a a lot of our meetings were like, that's cool. I love it. Like, for instance, the Metroid minimap. I was sitting in a mall meeting with the guys, and I mentioned something offhand, and I was like, man, it would be cool if we're not doing this. We should not do this. But I'm saying this because this is a cool idea,
What
and it
would be
just
neat
occurred to
is
me.
did you know that they literally wouldn't go along with it, or were you like, oh, we
No,
shouldn't do this, but you know?
we were coming up to the release. We were like I think 2 months out from the release date, and I was like, guys, I know we said nothing else. I know the game's set up. I know we're testing now, testing and polish, testing and polish. But it'd be real cool if we had a Metroid map. And the programmer loves Metroid, and he was like, well, that's awesome. I'm gonna take 2 weeks and try to do it, and let's get back. And I was like, no, 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 guys, listen, no. I started with let's not do this. He was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna see if I can do it because that's really cool. And so holding this chapter for now, and then we're gonna get back into it.
That's super cool because it is true. The mini, I immediately was like, that's Metroid. I'm like, but that can't possibly be the important reference. And as you said, it was actually the reference there. First of all, so Tim Coolish is going over right now to buy it from GOG. So you got one sale so far tonight. Also, thank you for the raid to The Kids Are Asleep. First of all, good night, Tina Marie, and also welcome everyone from Kids Are Asleep. Thanks so much for the raid. I am interviewing Christian Moseley, who is the writer and designer and one of the developers and the producer of Beyond Shadowgate, and it has been a delightful conversation, honestly, in this tremendous, excellent, super cool game. So apologies that I have not been able to focus too much on other things other than just sort of tying in from chat, but I've already had Christian on way longer than I planned to keep him, which is very kind of him, but I want to make sure that he gets some sleep. So I will just say, for anyone who just came in, if you have questions for this multi-talented, multi-degree holding person who has done all this amazing work, and in terms of design or anything else, if we've asked it before, we can either TLDR it or we can say that's been asked, but check the VOD. But it may be that they have questions that you would not necessarily have heard before. So throw a couple of questions up there, please, if you have any, and we will respond to those quickly. Mr. Comment about buying the game earlier. What was the comment, Drew? What did I miss? I'm sure that I did. Would not surprise me.
If you bought the game, thank you. Very much appreciate it. The money from this game is not going to buy us new stuff. It is going to future games. That's been the plan all along.
Oh, I see. So Drew is also buying it. Oh, okay. Thank you. Yeah. So we have two confirmed sales from this so far.
I've been having fun just chatting anyway. This has been a blast.
Oh, that's great, man. I appreciate that. Thank you. It's I really have enjoyed it myself because it's I love getting into the the nitty-gritty of and hearing the mind of a creator in any field, but especially for a game that was very iconic and that I was really affected by when I was younger. Having a great new game that I would have liked anyway, even if it didn't have that, but also it happens to have that, is pretty awesome. What's up, Poke Dude? Speaking of someone who should be checking this game out, good to see you, Poke Dude. You went for the special edition through Arvin Elrond's link. I hope it helps with future games. Cool. Nice, Tim Coolish. Yeah, any of that kind of stuff helps because, again, it's very important to be both supporting financially when you can, so thank you, Tim, but also doing that and then letting other people know this game is tremendous. I refer you all to the Bigalus Dickalus effect, which happened literally with Amal Omatar and Max Gladstone, and all the writers in chat know what I'm talking about. This random anime Twitter account that doesn't even have, it had some followers, but it wasn't like 100,000 followers. It's just like, you need to buy, This Is How You Lose the Time War. You need to drop everything and read it right now. It's just so good. And for whatever reason, that goes viral, and it becomes this massive thing. And then This Is How You Lose the Time War becomes #1 New York Times bestseller, and then it gets optioned. And the book was already out. It had already sold, but that raised it to a whole new level, literally because of word of mouth. So this is what you can do. If you really enjoy this, talk to you're all gamers, talk to other gamers about this sort of thing as well, because it really helps support the people who are making this and make it possible for future games from this and from other companies. So absolutely.
That's all true. The thing that I didn't know until I started working on this, Steam is a great example. So we had all those Kickstarter codes, we raised all that money, we sent the codes out, people like the game. They go on Steam and review it. Publishers look at that down the road. That helps us get onto new systems, all that stuff. It helps rebuild the brand. The issue I've come across with Steam is the people that got the Kickstarter codes their reviews don't count in our front page tally.
Oh, they
So our
don't?
percentage of positive reviews is actually much lower than the actual number of positive reviews because it only counts purchases directly through Steam. So we've got like 200 something reviews and only I think 140 or 150 of them count.
That's obnoxious. I mean,
So it's like, yeah, I mean, I get why they do it. They don't want people just tossing out free codes and artificially messing with it. But that's a real thing. Like when people buy the game and they give a review for it, it actually does make an impact.
of course. I mean, and the thing that's obnoxious about that too. I mean, I was thinking about this in part when you mentioned the review thing, because thanks to the generosity of and the good work of my wonderful publisher Athos Arts, my Grey Assassin trilogy, we ended up doing a BookBub thing, which I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's basically a thing where they discount it and it goes off to this massive curated list. And because it's a curated list, people trust it basically. So first of all, there was a massive surge in sales as a result of that, but there was also a massive surge in reviews and ratings. So all of a sudden, we jump into like 60, 65 reviews on Amazon and 70, 75 reviews on Goodreads, and that changes the algorithm. And it's just because people are getting it and they're reading it and they're seeing it. And I got a couple of other, actual text reviews, but I got a lot of just star reviews, like people reviewing it and rating it. So anything like that that doesn't cross over is just silly to me. And that just seems like something a human can look at and go, oh, that's self-evidently not something that we should have. That should be fixable easily, So I don't get it. I don't understand why they wouldn't. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. Have you reached out to them and they just were like, "This is how it is," or?
Yeah, that's just how the system works. It's like that for all games across the board, as I understand. So
That's annoying.
that's
Well,
how it is.
they don't do that on GOG. I'm glad that you managed to get it on GOG.
Yeah, no, we wanted to make sure people could play it without an internet connection. Like, we believe in game preservation too.
Yeah. No, that's amen to that too. I'm glad that it's on both of those platforms. All right, chat. Last question, last chance. Any last questions? Last chance saloon.
Yeah, whatever you have.
For Christian here.
This is great.
All right, you're pleased with the satisfying sound of paper tearing. All right, so that statue, it's a statue of a burly man holding a sword. You can't help but think that you would look handsome if made of marble. Nice. Painting of an eagle attacking a snake hangs behind a rope made of velvet. You don't know much about art, but it's very good. I bet if I tried to take that painting or touch that statue, I would die. Whoa! Man in uniform stops you. He says, "You got a ticket, fella?" I sure do. Take out my loaded crossbow. No, I'm just kidding. You hand the man the ticket. He takes it and moves aside without a word. That's right. Without a word, big guy. Lux, and there's just a portal. Lux smiles on you once more as you see a familiar-looking structure in the center of a large room. The wisp chimes in. This portal is drawing power from this place, but it has no destination. Let's use the key and get home. That's hilarious. Science and industry. I guess it makes sense.
I mean, yeah, you got to try to shoehorn a fantasy environment in a 1940s Chicago. This is
listen,
what you get.
you did some good work too. You place the key into the slot. Portal forms. You can see a glimpse of home. Just want to see that quickly. Simple plaque reads, "Only a few of these ancient objects are known to exist. Their purpose and composition are a mystery." Not a mystery to me. Yeah, you return through the portal tired of being transported to places you don't belong. Chicago, escaped Chicago. At least you don't feel ill. You're exhausted and it looks like the wisp feels the same. As you consider resting for a moment, a gust of desert wind strikes you, reminding you of the long journey ahead. At least now you have the knowledge to traverse the dangerous expanse of the Great Barren Desert. Or at least you think you do. That's interesting. So these path notes then, look at your nervous scrawling, west, north, west, north, northwest, north. Ah, so what that suggests, though, is that this is the same universe, but in vastly different time periods.
Play through the game again. And then, I want to do, like, after you're done playing through the game, I'd love to show you the more of the behind the scenes kind of stuff.
I would like to. I should have grabbed an Italian beef sandwich before leaving Chicago. Yeah. I should do that. Paper or plastic. Come on, Epic Quack. Also, Hayao Mizu Paints on YouTube. You missed the interview. No, it's all right. We are just about to wrap up the interview part here, but we do have the VODs. Deep dish. All right. Well, all right, so the closing question I will ask then here is, as we slide back over here to our other scene. So, Um, all in all put together, I know you have a number of games you're working on that you want to sort of do down the line. Can you give any clues to the absolutely you totally want to do this thing next? If again, sales, time, all those things
Yeah.
sort of permit. Is there any clues you can give about what a future game from you slash Zojoy might hold?
Yeah, there's the Zojoy is known for a handful of properties. I played them all as a kid. I remade this one. People liked it. No reason I can't do that for the rest of them. Absolutely no reason. And I'm the kind of guy that maybe I've already started, or maybe I haven't. I don't know.
Who
But
knows?
yeah. So that's one. And then me personally, outside of Zojoy, I love the Soul Blazer series, Soul Blazer, Illusion of Gaia, Terra Enigma. Nobody's gonna twist my arm to take a crack at one of those games. I love the way they're done. I love the music, the art, the concept of rebuilding the world after it's been devastated and unlocking it as you crawl through dungeon and dungeon. Um, yeah, so that's something I would do personally. Or take a crack at a cyberpunk adventure like Snatcher. I like cyberpunk, I like Terminator, so
Hmm.
one of those things. But I'm gonna keep trying.
Are you surprised that there has not that it always seems to me interesting, and I the one of the publishers that I work with just got the Fantasy Star license for tabletop role
Oh,
playing, and it
cool.
was one of those things where I was like, that wasn't already taken. Like, sometimes you're just like,
Yeah.
because Fantasy Star was enormous like back in the day. So are you surprised that some of these properties we're talking about, like, were you surprised you were able to get this property? Were you surprised that it had become a part of it? Were you surprised that there wasn't more of these legendary properties that they haven't already been snatched up and already produced in some fashion?
Yeah, I mean that's really so I think about that sometimes. I read something today about, Punch Out is dead and I was like, Punch Out's a top Nintendo game.
Yeah,
If you ask anybody that played Nintendo, they know yeah, everybody knows Punch Out, but Punch Out's dead, never coming back, something like that. So the games industry at large confuses me with how properties come and go and where those decisions are made. And a lot about the industry is still a little obscure to me. Was I surprised I could get a hold of this part? I'm just some guy that really, really liked this game. And there are a lot of people that really, really like this game. And somehow I just kept asking and bugging the heck out of Dave until I got to where I am. And I just wanted to do something and was passionate about it. So I figure you get enough folks like that to take a crack at something. I think of I believe his name is Christian Whitehead, who really loves Sonic, and he ended up working on Sonic Mania and making one of the better Sonic games.
yeah,
It does happen. I think if people just show enough interest, are willing to take a pay cut on stuff and just build the property, if you make a good business case for it and you show you can do a good job, I'd like to see more of these properties return,
same.
you know?
Same, especially when they're producing good new content as a result of it, and not just trafficking, like we said, in nostalgia, but also making new material as a really good, well-paced adventure game. So on top of that,
It's true.
for that too.
Our mantra, it's not that hard. Just make the game you want to play.
Yeah.
Just make the sequel you wanted to have when you were younger. It's really that
Yep.
simple.
And a lot of people talk about the idea that that's what writers do, on a basic level. J.R. Tolkien basically creates the Lord of the Rings because there is no Anglo-Saxon based English fantasy.
Yeah.
He's the King Arthur is an import from the continent and the godless French. It's certainly not them. So he wants to be able to produce work because he wants to read it, and so he writes what he wants to read. So it's similar in that way. But I think that's fascinating. That I'm glad you got it and that you had the opportunity to
Thank
do
you.
it because it really made a difference. So, Christian, I'm so grateful that you were able to do this chat with me, and I'm sorry that we kept you longer, but
Not at all.
I really appreciate it very much. I hope you will not be a stranger. If other stuff comes up that I can help promote in any small way, I would love to do that, and very much enjoyed this a great deal, and hope we are doing this game justice with our playthrough, and look forward to hopefully chatting with you down the road. Anything you want to promo quickly, but like stuff people should be like, go do this, get this, go to this thing, check out this
Yeah.
stream. Anything you want to talk about there, just as we're letting you go here.
Yeah, the best thing to do, again, get online. If you've got the game, please leave a review. Reviews are huge Tell people about it. Word of mouth is still the best way to get somebody to do something. Tell them you liked it. Tell them what you liked about it. Show it to them. You know, whatever you got to do to get the word out about this. I really would like to make more games. Dave Marsh wants me to make more games. We just got to have the people want them. You know, we have
Yeah.
the teams that can do it. That's the biggest thing. And then um, I have social media and stuff. I use it to promote the games. If you want to look at me there, that's usually where I say stupid things that I shouldn't say, like, "Hey, I'm working on something right now. Guess what?" Yeah. So if you want to see stuff like that, you can find me there. Otherwise, I'm looking forward to the next time you play. If you're going to stream this again, I'm happy to jump on in. I've had a great time in this conversation. Love to come back. This was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Chat, can we get some love for Chris here? Thank you, Christian. I appreciate it. And yes, would love to be back in touch. I'm going to play a little more tonight, and then we'll definitely be doing this till we finish it. So for sure. And thank you again.
Of course.
All righty. So with that, I will say goodbye. All right. There we go. Good stuff. I really enjoyed that quite a bit, and that was great. So again, thank you to Christian Moseley, and really love that. And again, great game. Like, I mean, it's a game that I continue to feel like, even as I was playing it, and I'm talking to him and I'm looking at chat and I'm trying to do a million things at once, right? And I just all of a sudden noticed, I'm like, oh wait, the webs of ice and everything, and I was just like, that's what that's about. I love that, because it's true. It's challenging, but it's not obtuse, and it's not, you need to remember of the thing you found 750 hours ago in the other thing. Very cool. You thought you were talking to Freddie Prinze Jr. No. That was that's the writer and designer, and a very important, obviously. I mean, I think he's downplaying his role a little bit slightly, but he's a huge reason that this game exists in any capacity, because he just kept at it. And then obviously he has a great team. The pixel artist is amazing. The musician is amazing. The programmer is amazing. He's got a great team, but he really was kind of the engine that got them rolling again, it sounds like to me, that as I was reading between the lines a little bit. So that was great. I really enjoyed that, and he's always welcome to come back. And yeah, so we are going to play a little more. It is a little after 11:30, so I'm going to play for another hour or so, and let's see how we do. But I enjoyed that a lot. Really enjoyed that. Get rid of that. Remove that. Said, oh God. Uh-oh. All right. OBS has crashed. So bear with me, chat. I don't know why that happened. I'll be right back. Don't anyone go anywhere. I'll be right back.